lid went on properly. Oh, just great start to the stream. I didn't even feel myself kick it over. Not sure if that's enough. Why did you chuck a towel to me then? Why did you not chuck some kitchen roll? Hello everyone. Just spilt some water down the side of my setup, so... Alright, that's fine. Alright. It's fine. Hello everyone. Oh! Who is ready? Who is ready? The shirt's on. The shirt is on, yes. I had to try and bring some luck to Ferrari. I mean, I think it's kind of a fool's hope, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's not the shirt of doom. No, it's not. Still 1 hour. Yep, still 1 hour to go. Still a little while to go. But it will absolutely fly by. So, luck by toasting the shirt of water. Yeah. I kicked over my water bottle, which is down the side of my setup, and it just went everywhere. Didn't put the lid on properly. But welcome, everyone. Oh, that coffee is nice. It's a little bit chilly here. A little bit chilly. But hope you are well. Hope your Sunday has been treating you well. Hope you've been longing for this race today. I know I definitely have. We could have a brand new champion. Could have a brand new champion if Lando Norris wins this race today. But of course, he has to get past Oscar Piastri and contend with no doubt a very aggressive Max Verstappen into turn 1. And the strategy is going to be important here today, and expect Red Bull to do something aggressive and risky with their strategy. Needs to be done. So we'll review that all, of course, in around half an hour's time when the drivers have completed their reconnaissance laps and made their way round to the grid. We'll keep an eye out on if there's any shenanigans in that regard. Yeah, I haven't really any further update for you guys at the moment in relation to whether drivers are starting from the pit lane. But we'll get that information in due time. Max full send up the inside, hits Piastri, both out. Lando retires just to keep it interesting next week. Do I think Lando can win the Drivers' Championship today? I think if he leads out of turn 1, I think yes. I think he can. I think if he doesn't lead out to turn 1, I think a lot of it is a race to turn 1, to be honest, or at least a race to the end of the first lap. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I do think whoever leads at the end of the first lap will probably go on to win this race, because clean air is just king. And unless there's safety cars, let's say if it's a clean race today, we see no safety cars, we see no stoppages, I think whoever leads at the end of the first lap will win the race. You want Lando mechanical failure today with Max P1 and Piastri to P2. Ooh, that would spice things up, wouldn't it, in the last race? Red Bull sandbagging? No. Lando has to attack Oscar, but to keep an eye on Max and George, not easy for him. No. But then third place is also still not a terrible race result for him. So if he was to finish third place, he'd gain, what would he get? He'd get 15 points, so he'd lose 10 points. So the gap would be 12 points to him and Oscar. So he doesn't want to finish third. Ideally, he'd like to win this race and secure the championship here. But if he finishes second, that gap comes down a further 7 points from 22 points to 15. And if he finishes third, it's a 10-point gap difference. So that's why he could finish third in today's race and next weekend in Abu Dhabi and still win the championship. Hey, Broken. All good, thank you. I'm all very well. So I hope everyone is, had a good Sunday and you're ready for some F1. Ooh, you get a lot of dirty air around this track. Yeah, you do. It's a terrible racetrack, to be honest with you. I don't like it. Not a fan. I think Piastri will be very defensive the whole race. Verstappen going to be aggressive. Well, the thing is with Max is that I just don't think, as we saw yesterday with the sprint race, it was kind of an insight into the first stint of the race today, and we saw that Red Bull struggle. Now, what was very interesting is that Oscar Piastri said that even though he was in clean air, he said around 6 laps to the end, 5-6 laps to the end of the race, the sprint race yesterday, which was only 19 laps, he started to feel a lot of vibration in the car, on the front tyres. So there's very high degradation here. He made no excursions to the gravel traps either. He was calm and collected up front and had no dirty air to contend with. So that is the nature of the track here. Of course, the tyres do take a lot of lateral load. That's why there's a 25 lap limit on the tyres, and that's going to play a big factor in today's race. You waited 30 minutes for this to start, Minerva. Well, we are here. We are here. Not long to go. No, race is supposed to start in, as you can see there, from the counter, from the timer, 53 minutes time on the next hour, 4 p.m. UK time. It will start. Has the gravel been changed or some pin tracks added? So, the gravel hasn't changed. They've added gravel traps to the outside of some corners. So turn 4 and turn 5, turn 10, turn 15. So to try and ensure that drivers just aren't keeping it planted through there and that there is some jeopardy to running wide rather than just a track limits violation, they've added gravel there. But because the tyres are taking so much of a battering round here, Pirelli did say that they'd seen some tyres get a considerable amount of damage to the carcass, quite deep into the carcass as well, which has raised concerns with them. But we also have seen some considerable damage. So what was interesting, I thought, yesterday was that Lando Norris, so one of the reasons he bowed out of his lap yesterday, that final lap out of turn 2, he said he'd already damaged his floor the prior day on Friday, and I didn't know that. That had been missed in the reporting. So Lando actually had damage to his floor the day before, and he didn't want to damage another floor because I think that's the last one that he has here. They don't bring umpteen amount of floors and replacement parts. They're kind of one whole. The floors here aren't brought in parts. They're one big component. And, yeah, he bowed out of it because he didn't want to run wide and run over the curb and into the gravel and cause himself some more damage to ensure that he's okay for today. So that's a sensible decision. I didn't know that at the time. But, that's sensible from him, really. If he knew instantly he was going to run wide and he had to lift out of throttle, then, yeah, fair enough. Play the percentages at the end of the day. Max might catch both of them around the outside while Oscar gets too busy to handle Lando. Yeah, I mean, I think we could see three on the outside, and I think there's a very big possibility Lando ends up third place down into turn 1. It could be, and I think if Lando finds himself 3 wide down into turn 1, I think you've got to back out. You've got to play the percentages. The last thing you want to do is get squeezed and just end up with a broken suspension. You back out of it if you find yourself 3 wide, because overall, I would still feel confident if I'm Lando. I would still feel confident that I have the better car here this weekend and that I can re-overtake Max Verstappen with the tyres here today, with the degradation that's going to be here. I think, Max probably needs a Hail Mary of some sort, some strategy, something outside of his control to go his way with safety cars or stoppages or something, because I just don't think over a full race distance here he's going to have the car. Unfortunately, this is going to be a pedestrian race unless there's some sort of incident at the start. Have low expectations, guys. As we've said all throughout this weekend, have low expectations for the race today, and hopefully you'll be pleasantly surprised. That's how I'm approaching this race. I'm expecting not a lot to happen, but it is going to be intriguing in relation to strategy. So I think we will see some overtakes because of the strategy, and I think we are going to see some different alternative strategies. So I think some are going to start on the hard compound tyres, some are going to start on the mediums. Of course, with the mandatory 25, the undercut is also very powerful here as well. So we're going to see drivers try and cover off the undercut, but then they might not, which means they might pit a bit too early and not have enough tyres towards the end of the race. So yeah, we'll have a look at the strategies in a moment. But there was an interesting post by Ruth Buscombe. If you're unfamiliar with who Ruth is, she's a former strategist. I think she was head strategist, wasn't she, at Aston Martin? I think she was at Or am I going wrong there? Sorry, Ruth Buscombe. What is it? I think she also worked for Aston Martin, didn't she? Just like Bernie Collins did. No, Haas. Haas. Sorry, was it Haas she worked for? Was it Haas? Oh, Barack, thank you for the 5 gifted. Much appreciated. Who did she work for? I'm trying to find out who she worked for. She worked for Haas. Sorry, she was race strategist for Haas. So yeah. Apologies. Bernie Collins is the one who was Aston Martin, but she made a very good post actually, which we'll review. And breaks down, she's done all the mathematics, of course, and broken down which lap is actually the important lap here to keep an eye on for this race today. She was also at Sauber, that's it, yeah. Why is there a 25 limit for tyres? This is purely track specific, because these tyres, they saw last year that with no tyre limit, the tyres got down to 100%, like 100% degradation. They got all the way down to the carcass, which is like a safety concern. And the last thing Pirelli want is for there to be a blowout. So that they've mandated that there has to be basically 2 stops here. No tyre can do more than 25 laps. That's even under the virtual safety car or safety car conditions. 25 laps, no ambiguity. Ambiguity? Is that the right? Ambiguity there. Let's just stop there. Ambiguity. There's no ambiguity, basically. No, ambiguity is the right word, isn't it? No, animosity is the wrong word. That's about, like, being angry at someone. No. Ambiguity is in... There's no room for interpretation. There we go. I think that's the right word. Ambiguity. There we go. Ambiguity. If they go over 25 laps on a set of tyres, DQ. They get disqualified. No. Big no. What's up with Ferrari in Qatar all weekend? They are literally equal to Alpine. What is up with them is that this track is basically their kryptonite. Oh, it's basically their kryptonite. Oh, hang on a second. Yeah. So they have... this car is just showcasing all of the weaknesses of the Ferrari. So much so that they are, equal to the Alpine, if not slower than the Alpine. And Lewis Hamilton, who is down in the dumps anyway, and has been struggling with that Ferrari for the majority of the season, but definitely most recently, it has just exasperated those difficulties. Also, as well, I don't want to make excuses for Lewis Hamilton, but if anyone is paying attention to the communication still between Lewis Hamilton's engineer, Adami, and himself, it's comical levels of communication between the two of them. And for a driver that is already not confident at all in the car, he is not going to be getting any further confidence from his engineer. So, yeah, I think there's a change coming there. I don't see how that relationship can continue. Just like Charles Leclerc with Xavi, if you remember. Very comical levels as well between Xavi and Charles. And he's now got a new engineer this year, which is... Was it this year or was it last year we got the new engineer? But the relationship is a massive improvement. And the communication is a lot more clear and concise. This is not new, of course, for the engineer of Lewis Hamilton. He was also the same with Carlos Sainz. And I think there'll be an eventual change there. I'd be very surprised if there wasn't. Why am I joining so long? Because we go live before the race starts so that we can have a chat. If you're new here, this is what we do. We're going to change scenes shortly when the drivers are making their way around to the starting grid because they do the reconnaissance lap. Sometimes some shenanigans happen, some mechanical failures. The drivers relay some important information, which we can relay back to you as well. But, and then we have a look at the strategy options and so forth. Can Lando win today? He most definitely can. Look, he needs to lead into Turn 1. I think, personally, if Oscar is leading into Turn 1, I think he wins this race. Or at least he beats Norris. That's what I suspect. Unless there is safety car restart, there's a red flag. I just don't think... I mean, even with Norris... Because Norris is going to be in the dirty air. And unless Piastri does kill his tyres... That's the only way that I see if Piastri leads into Turn 1 and he doesn't win this race is that he struggles on his tyres. And we know that Lando, in the grand scheme of things, while Piastri has massively improved on his tyre management, Norris fares a lot better still. I still think he has the edge when it comes to tyre management. But, as we know, catching is one thing, overtaking is another, especially around a circuit like this, where it's very difficult to do. Sainz's cousin, also named Sainz, reportedly had a convo with a high-ranking Ferrari insider. In what relation? What was the information that was relayed from that? What are the chances of Max to win the championship? Very low. He has to win here. Max has to win. Otherwise, I mean, he still needs assistance anyway, but if Norris finishes any position ahead of Max Verstappen today, Max is mathematically out of the championship because he is 25 points behind Norris right now. So, yeah, that would mean he would not have any chance in the last race of the season. My pleasure, Minerva, my pleasure. Yuki is going to make the dive bomb. What, all the way from 15th position? Just remember the McLaren pit issue with multiple stops. Really don't want to be the second driver in the stopping order. No. But, I mean, in fairness, the last time they had to make multiple stops, was Brazil. And they actually did okay. They didn't have that recurring wheel gun issue. So, can I greet everyone who has a birthday today? I don't have, but want to greet everyone who does. Of course I can. Happy birthday to everyone who is watching today. Hope you have a good one. Hopefully we've got a good race here for you. And hopefully the driver and team that you support does well. If it's a Ferrari driver, though, it might not be a good birthday for you. You might want to have a few drinks. Can Lewis get top 10? I don't think so. No. Unless 7 cars ahead of him crash, I don't think he's going to get a top 10. No. I just think it's going to be very difficult for Lewis in that Ferrari. I mean, so supposedly, Lewis did say in an interview yesterday, they tested a new setup for the sprint race. There was some work done in the simulator overnight on Friday. They made those changes, and Lewis said those changes made the car worse. So, yeah, whatever they did in the simulator didn't translate out on the track. Am I going to show the stream? I am not going to show live coverage, no, because that is for copyright. So what we have here is the live data and the track map, and of course I will keep you up to date with everything. I have the TV coverage alongside me, which I keep an eye on, and I pretty much use as a replay tool to inform you guys of what has actually happened. But yeah, if you're new here, we won't be able to show live footage. No channel will be able to do so. If they are, they'll be removed from whichever platform they are doing so in very quickly, because F1 is pretty hot on that of using their content. Never say never. Look at what happened in Odyssey Supercars. The championship leader lost the championship in the last race of the year. Never say never. Never say as long as you are still mathematically within a chance of winning, you've still got a chance. Stranger things have happened. No pun intended there with a new series of Stranger Things, but yes. Literally, stranger things happen. There's always a possibility of a mechanical issue, a collision with another driver. So, yeah, but that's what you need to do. You need to mathematically stay within it. And if Norris finishes ahead of Max, though, today, any position, any point-scoring position, as long as he's one position ahead, he is out because he is 25 points behind. So let's have a look at those championship standings, shall we? As the drivers are about to make their way to the end, or they are currently making their way to the end of the pit lane to conduct their reconnaissance laps. Let me just get the live championship standings up. There we go. Is there any chance for a safety car VSC today? Yes, always, always. So, there we go. Confirmation at the top of your screen there that Lando Norris has a 22-point lead over Oscar Piastri after Piastri gaining 2 points on him yesterday. Looks like if he wins today, he will reduce that lead to 15 points. If, of course, Norris finished second, that's a big if, he could finish third, and it could be a 10-point gap or anything more. But Oscar Piastri is 22 points ahead. Sorry, behind Lando Norris. Max Verstappen there, 371 to Lando Norris's 396. That is a 25-point gap exactly. So, if Lando Norris finishes one position ahead of Max Verstappen, he will end up out of the championship with one race weekend remaining. But if Lando Norris wins today, he wins the championship, as he will mathematically have done enough, as Oscar Piastri will not have enough races remaining to close the gap. So for Lando, there is obviously a benefit of winning the race today. And of course, you want to do that. But if he does finish second or third, he still has a good advantage in the next race. So, yeah, George Russell mathematically out of it. In relation to the Constructors' Championship, well, Red Bull Racing are 41 points now behind Mercedes. Mercedes look ever more likely to secure P2. And Ferrari, well, they are falling behind here, and they are P4. No doubt, probably not too fussed, and they just want to secure a more wind tunnel time. So that is it for the championship standings at the moment. What is the maximum amount of points a driver can get to win the championship? Oh, God. Well, it's 25 points of race. So let's have a look. So you've got a maximum of 20. So you've got 25 times 24 is 600. And then you've got 6 sprint races. So 6 times 8 equals 48. 648. So if you was to win every single race, sprint included, 648 points. That is the maximum amount of points that you could get. Thank you, Tim Page. Well, I am a one-man band, so I don't have to split my time between other presenters. I'm very selfish. It's all me. It's all about me here. Will Papaya rules be bent today in Lando's favour to help him win the championship? No. They're free to fight. Even with Max there's going to be no Papaya rules. I think they, especially like with pit lane infringements and stuff like that, what happens. It's in the lap of the gods, shall we say. Remember double points in 2014? Was it 2014? I thought that was 2016, wasn't it? Or was it? I thought it was 2016 because that's where Nico Rosberg had to back up, didn't he? Lewis Hamilton backed up Nico Rosberg. Or was it also 2014? Was it for those 3 years it was double points? Anything to try and make Abu Dhabi more appealing or more of an interesting race, eh? Because it doesn't really ever work too well as a race. What they're doing right now? No, so they are doing their reconnaissance laps. So their drivers are able to do a couple of laps around the track, basically, make their way through the pit lane just to make sure everything is all in working order and basically a systems check of the car, make sure the track is suitable as well, and then they will make their way around to their grid slots. So this is basically what they do. Sometimes, not often now, not really in this current era of F1, do we ever see kind of issues on the call it installation laps, reconnaissance laps. Very rarely do we see it, but sometimes we do. We've seen some lockups, we've seen some crashes before on the installation laps, more so when there's treacherous conditions, which we saw from Charles Leclerc back in Miami, crashed into the barrier and failed to even start the race because it was very harsh conditions. But yeah, it's just something that we keep an eye out on because you never know. You never know. A safety car or a VSC or safety car in the later stages would definitely, like around that 45, it would be epic. I'm not so sure it would. Lap 45 safety car. I don't know. 17 laps on the same set of tyres, maybe. I feel like it would ruin any form of strategy if the safety car is that late. Because we know a sprint race here isn't exciting. We saw that yesterday. So a sprint race wouldn't be exciting. With a 25-lap stint cap for the race, it looks like our only hope for some variety is tyre selection. So what do we think about the potential for variety? Who might go for a soft start? I don't think anyone's going to use the soft. I don't think the soft is really a viable tyre unless there is like a late safety car with a few laps remaining. It just won't last. But what we will see is drivers start on the hard compound tyre compared to the medium. And I think that's maybe what Max might do and a few other drivers because we know that the tyres here take an absolute battering, and Max has to do something that is alternative in relation to the strategy here. Now, what is important here is the undercut. The undercut is very powerful because we know that clean air is king, and you can make up considerable amount of time. So we may see drivers pit early. However, what that will then do is that it will mean that they may have to be forced into even a free stop because of that 25-lap limit. And it is quite a long pit stop lost time here. So that's going to be intriguing who approaches the 26, sorry, the free stop strategy compared to the 2. Because if you do pit too early to benefit from the undercut, then you're going to have to make an extra pit stop with that 25 lap limit. So yes, lots of permutations today. So at least the strategy kind of keeps it intriguing. But the on-track action, I have low expectations on. But I'm here to be surprised, and hopefully we are. The medium and the hard will last a full 25 laps, given McLaren's good tyre management. Yes and no. I mean, as I said, Oscar Piastri yesterday, bearing in mind, there was on a lighter fuel load because it's only a 19-lap race in the sprint race. Here, they're going to be starting on 100 kilos of fuel, or near enough 100 kilos of fuel. So the car is much heavier. It's going to be put more energy through the tyres in the early stages, in the early stints. So those mediums, if they start on the mediums, that is, might not even last as long as they did yesterday. And Oscar did say 5 to 6 laps from the end, even though he was in clean air out front, he started to get quite a significant amount of vibrations at the front because of the degradation. So that's something that the drivers need to be taking care of in the opening laps here. Is the rule 25 lap stint limit or 25 laps used? 25 laps used. So if they are started on used tyres as an example and they're 5 laps old already, then they can only do 20 laps on that set of tyres. That is the rule. So it doesn't matter if it's not a 25 lap stint, it's 25 laps of the age of tyre. Not even my Ferrari shirt can do anything for Scuderia today. Well, yeah. I'm trying to bring him some luck with the shirt, you know, but... can I explain what MOM is? Why do they need to change DRS? Because DRS is a bit it's a system that has not necessarily been many fans have been a fan of in the past. MOM is going to be someone can remind me what MOM is going to stand. But it's basically push to pass. You have a certain amount of energy usage that you're going to be able to have over the laps, but you're only going to be able to use it if you're within 1 second, like DRS. And you can use it anywhere on the circuit. That's the rule that they're putting in place. It's not like a designated zone like they do with DRS. So manual overtaking mode. There we go. Manual overtaking mode. Just think of it as push to pass, but push to pass is already taken, copyrighted, shall we say, by some other motorsport series, most particularly IndyCar. I got a Lando Norris Monster can and a Red Bull shirt. That's your support. Oh wow, that is a variety. You're double parked there with the support. That's like those people who wear half and half scarves going to football matches. Does Recon laps waste tyre life? It does, yes. So they'll be on a used set of tyres now, a set of tyres that won't be used in the race. So yeah, but some drivers are making their way around to their grid slots already. Doesn't seem to be anything of note really to report to you as of yet in relation to issues out on track. So everything seems to be systems A-OK. Has anyone ever won the championship without leading the standings at the start of any of the race weekends? Yes, Sebastian Vettel. Sebastian Vettel in 2012 when he won his... No, not 2012. 2010. Was it 2010 or was it 2012? I can't remember which one it was. It was his first World Championship, I think. He didn't lead at any point throughout the whole drivers' standings, throughout the whole season until the last race of the season in Abu Dhabi. So, yeah, that's the one that instantly comes to my mind. I don't know if anyone else has done the same. But, yeah, Sebastian Vettel, 2010, yeah. It was mainly a championship battle between Mark Webber and Fernando Alonso. And Sebastian Vettel was 24 points behind with 2 races remaining. Exactly the same gap that Max Verstappen had coming into this weekend and Oscar Piastri. And he won the championship. So many were asking, similarly like with how we've had Lando and Oscar and many asking, should one driver be preferred? Red Bull were also being asked that very same question about Mark Webber and Sebastian Vettel. Are you going to prioritise Mark Webber because he is closer in the championship battle? I can't remember if he was actually leading in the last 2 races or if it was equal on points with Alonso or if Alonso was slightly ahead. But and they went no. And look what happened. And then Sebastian Vettel went on to win 3 more world titles after that one in 2010. So Lewis has won a World Drivers' Championship with only 5 race wins and lost a World Drivers' Championship with 10 wins. That's the nature of Formula 1, eh? How the seasons can be so very different. So very different. Right, that is it, really, it seems, for the reconnaissance laps and the installation laps. Nothing to report. Everyone seems to be okay. So no gremlins, it seems. So let's have a look at the strategy options for today. Let's just get the information to hand for you. So, where have I put it? There we go. There we go. Right. Welcome everyone. Welcome. So, strategy options for today. We're here in Strategy Corner and, well, as you can see, unsurprisingly, the two-stop strategy is mandated today. That is what Pirelli have suggested, and they have a variety of options. 5 different strategies. Not often we see that. The medium compound tyre there, which I think strategy 1 is... I actually don't think we're going to see strategy 1, to be honest with you. I think that's what most people suspect will happen. But I'm not convinced the medium compound tyre will last that long, especially in the first stint. So I don't think really strategy 1 and strategy 2 we are going to see here. Maybe, but I think it's more so something akin to strategy 3 or strategy 4. Those are probably going to be the 2 preferred strategies here, and that's what we'll see. We may see we may even see... I think, and I actually think Pirelli may have missed a bit of a trick here. I think we may even see a medium to hard compound tyre because of the undercut, as we touched upon. The undercut is powerful here, and I think Pirelli are kind of missing that here in relation to their strategy options. So expect some of them to pit, I think, sooner than lap 19. I mean, the mediums were starting to fall off yesterday. Well before lap 19 of the sprint race, and the cars have got more fuel on board now. So I think really lap 21, lap 19 is quite late for the first pit stop, if we get no safety cars, of course. Max will go for strat 5. Well, yeah, so I think Max is definitely going to start on the hard compound tyre. I think the McLarens, the reason why he'll start on the hard is because it's an alternative strategy to the McLarens. He has to offset them. That if he does not lead into turn 1, he's going to be... I don't think there's any way, the sprint race confirmed that yesterday, the Red Bull is going to struggle to stay with the McLarens, who, if they've got clean air and they're 1-2 out of the first corner, then they're just going to drive off into the distance. So whoever is first and second, whether it's Lando first or Piastri first, if they don't have to worry about a Red Bull in between them, then that second McLaren isn't going to end up being held up. So Max has to try something to try and gain track position or get the benefit of being on a quicker tyre at the end of the race. Do something to maybe force McLaren into doing something different with their strategy with the 25-lap stints max age life that we have here. We may see some teams, as we touched upon as well, because they go for the undercut early, and I'm surprised that's not even suggested by Pirelli here, that I reckon a free stop will be used, but what will put people off of the free stop is the pit stop loss time here, which is a bit longer than it is. It's one of the longest on the calendar, which we'll get to in a moment. So if we look at the tyre allocations that are available, you can see here that the dark highlighted ones are brand new tyres and the light coloured ones are used tyres. And everyone has a brand new set of hards available. So everyone has one brand new set of hard compound tyres available to them, and they pretty much, apart from Liam Lawson, all have 2 brand new sets of mediums available to them. So the strategy options here today are open, really open, and there is, of course, the possibility of that soft compound tyre being used today, and only those who didn't really make it out of the bottom 5. Some in the bottom 10, who didn't make it out of Q2 have an extra set of softs as well. But I think the softs will only be used if there is a very late safety car and we have the last few laps remaining. What's the dead been like this weekend? Very high, James. What if Max starts on softs? If Max starts on softs, I just don't think there's a benefit to it. I just think they just won't last as long. And the thing is, he's going to pit earlier, and he's in a much faster car than the rest of the field. Because, yes, while he's maybe not as quick as the McLarens, he's comfortably been kind of second fastest. Okay, maybe George is there as well, mixing it up with Max. But you have to think about where he needs to pit into. He wants to pit into clean air, and he'll just end up getting into dirty air sooner rather than later. So starting on the softs and pitting early is not best. Whereas if he starts on the hards, he's going to end up going, theoretically, longer in this race. And he'll find himself having some clean air eventually when those McLarens pit before him. But the soft tyres won't work unless there is a safety car on light fuel at the end of the race. So that is it really in relation to strategy. We'll come back to that in a second. Now, the race pace, unsurprisingly, from what the data has been gathered from this weekend, from the sprint race and from FP1, is McLaren are the quickest. Shock, absolute horror. We said it coming into this race weekend that this is a track that suits them down to a T. And we've seen that. Medium to high-speed corners, they're very well balanced, and particularly their strength is on the tyres. Less sliding for them compared to their competitors. And Mercedes, interestingly, there looks like probably because of George's pace yesterday in the sprint race, their pace is slightly quicker than that of the Red Bull. Apologies there. bit of something that's stuck at the back of my throat. Aston Martin, our third quickest. I mean, look at the gap. Look at Ferrari, by the way. Look at that race simulation pace. I think why are Ferrari fifth fastest? And two, they shouldn't even be fifth fastest. They should be down here with the Alpine. They should be down here with the Kicks Alba and the Haas. I mean, they are terrible. Ferrari. How the data suggests that they are fifth fastest is crazy. So yeah, well, we'll see obviously what happens today. Maybe the Ferraris will cause a collision today. Maybe with the rear end as snappy as happy as it looks in both Lewis and Leclerc's hands, maybe they're the ones to cause a safety car today. We'll see. What do I think about Fernaroni winning F2? He doesn't seem to have a seat in F1 next year. Yeah, I mean, look, I think if you win F3 and F2 back to back, there should kind of be a promotion system where you are able to get on the grid for the next year. But look, it is what it is. Hopefully he has a position in the future. We want to see new blood continue to come through. And end of 2026, anything can happen. But yeah, great back-to-back win for him, just like Gabriel Bortoleto did and Oscar Piastri. So that is it in relation to the race pace there. And then, well, this is the key here for today. Green flag conditions. I said this pit stop last time was long. It's 26 seconds. It's only 2 seconds quicker than the longest on the calendar, which is Imola, which is 28 seconds. So that right there is why teams will be against wanting to do the free stop. However, the undercut is very powerful and it may force teams into doing a free stop and it may just be viable. It all depends on the set-off of the degradation that we see here today. VSC safety car pit stop, of course, is a magnificent, is a big advantage of 10.5 seconds pitting under safety car conditions. And we have seen quite a high percentage of safety cars here, VSC included, in the previous races that we've been here. 2021 to 2024, in only those 4 years, we have a 67% chance. So, yeah, that is intriguing today. Do I think that Max can win his 5th title? Personally, no. No, I think being 25 points back now, he needs a collision. He needs a collision for Oscar and Lando, most particularly Lando, to win this championship now. Okay, yeah. No, I don't think so. No. Possible Alex on podium next season? Well, anything's possible next season. With the free stop, would we see the soft, medium, soft? I think with the free stop, we would see the medium eventually used. Yes. I think that's the only way, really, we see the soft. Other than a late safety car, I think that's the only way that we see the soft used. But I reckon we could see people pit lap 10. We've already seen here this weekend, I've seen some comparing it as another Monaco, the non-street version of Monaco, because it's so tricky to overtake here. It's nigh on impossible. I think we'll see teams take that gamble of pitting really early. So we may see some drivers start on the softs at the start. We may see it. I think we could see quite a variety here throughout the grid of those starting on soft compounds, of every single compound, the soft, medium and hard compound tyre. But I think it's most likely going to be the medium and hards that everyone will start on. But yeah, some will commit early to that free stop just to find clean air. Because if they find clean air, then they're going to gain positions. So it's all going to be, it's basically a race that I think is going to be decided at turn 1 and in the pits via strategy today. Not really out on track. So there's still enough for us to keep an eye out on. It's a very different race. So, yeah. Who do I support? At the moment, it's really unfortunate to say Lewis Hamilton. Not a lot to cheer about at the moment. So, is 67%... Sorry, I did see that. What was it say? Is 67% safety car probability high enough to hold out to wait for the drivers? I don't think you can really take you have to treat every single race, regardless of what's happened in previous years. I think you can't really look at those percentages too much because there are circumstances behind them. And it could just... We've had races before where there's been a very high percentage of safety cars, and then in 2 years later, the next 2 races in succession from them haven't ended up requiring safety cars. So I don't think you can really do that. There's always the gamble to do that, of course. Some tracks have a higher probability than others, but other than the first lap or the first 2 laps, if there isn't a safety car, then there's not really going to be one later on, unless there is a mechanical failure of some sort. But what we may see here, and what my hopes are, is that we will see offset strategies. We'll see those go for the aggressive 3-stop. We'll see those trying to do the 2-stop. And we should hopefully get drivers on a wide variety of tyres. And that tyre offset helps to provide for overtakes. So fingers crossed it pans out that way. I still have low expectations, though. Who do I think will win? I personally think Oscar's going to win this. I think he's got some confidence back. He feels confident here. He's built into this weekend. He started off well. And this is a track that he likes. High downforce required. Not a lot, like just no hard braking zones for him. No slow corners, medium to high speed. This is the circuit that he likes very well. Saudi is very similar. And he did very well there. So, yeah, I always expected Oscar to fare much better here than at the previous races. Abu Dhabi, I also expect him to fare quite well at as well. But Lando, that falls a bit more towards the Lando range than it does Oscar. But, yeah. Do I do any karting or racing myself? I do the odd karting every now and then. But, no, I'm not a big karter. I'm a sim racer. I like racing from the comfort of my own home. Lando's time management gets him a world champ today. We'll see. We'll see. Background, bit of extra light there. You're a professional F3 driver, are you? There's no live footage. No live footage, guys, because for copyright reasons. But that is your strategy options for today. I think Pirelli actually have, as we said earlier, I think they have been a bit too light on the pit stops there. I don't think we'll see drivers pit as late as lap 21, other than maybe the McLarens. I think we're going to see a lot of drivers pit prior to lap 19. So yeah, I'm surprised those pit stop times have been added in there. Now, something that Ruth Buscombe said, which I thought was really intriguing, is that she said, all eyes on lap 32. She went, lap 32 is where it breaks. If you stop before, you owe a third of the race. Stop after, and you run to the flag. So basically, I say you owe a third. You owe. So if you stop lap before lap 32 with your second pit stop, you're going to have to pit again because of the maths with only 57 laps here. If you stop after lap 32, you can go to the end of the race. So we need to keep an eye on those who make their second pit stop before lap 32 because they are definitely committing to that third pit stop. And of course, the crossover is lap 32. If you box early, you're going to have that third. But if you box later, you are at risk of the undercut. So the degradation here is going to be massively key in the second stage of the race. And what does that mean for McLaren and Max? Well, if the McLarens stack both cars and they lose seconds or delay one and invite pressure, Max has an opportunity to force the error, time the stop and take the air. So there's loads of variables, but lap 32 is a key lap here today that we need to keep an eye out on. With 57 laps and a powerful undercut, it may make sense for teams to do the first 7 laps on softs. I agree. I think that's what we're going to see here today. I think we're going to see every single tyre be used at the start of the race. Right, let's get ready, shall we? We've only just under 15 minutes remaining until this race gets underway. Let's get prepped and set up. So, I think that's all that I needed to do there. And then we have that there. And that's it. Yeah, just need to move you guys down there. Move that up there. Bosh, we are ready to rock and roll. We are ready to rock and roll. If you're joining us for the first time, guys, as well, just a little note there at the top of your screen. What is that pink dot? Well, that pink dot is the DRS detection zone. That is where drivers need to be within 1 second at that point on track to get DRS, which is down the start-finish straight. Only one DRS here. I'm surprised, really, that they haven't extended that DRS. I think they should have done. I think the DRS should be a lot longer because of the difficulty of overtaking, and I'm quite disappointed that the FIA haven't addressed that. So, but there we go. There we go. Thank you. Much appreciated for the nice comments. And yeah, thank you guys for everyone for tuning in as always and choosing myself over others. Hit that like and subscribe button. Let's get to 1,000 likes before the race begins, eh? We can do that. We could do that. I know you can. And we are trying to hit 70,000 subscribers as well. So if we could get ever closer to that, and if we could achieve that by the end of the season, because we only have one more race remaining, that would be great. But we do have the possibility of a brand new champion here today in the form of Lando Norris. If he wins this race, he will be your 2025 world champion. If Oscar Piastri finishes ahead of Lando, he will extend this championship to the last race of the season. And, well, if Lando finishes 1 position ahead of Max Verstappen, no matter where it is in the points, Max will mathematically be out of this championship. So for Max Verstappen to stay in the championship, finishing ahead of Lando Norris is an absolute must. What is a safety car? A safety car is a car that comes out on track and slows the pack down and bunches them up due to unsafe conditions out on track. And what they do is that they go around the track behind the safety car, which sets the pace so that a crash or a stricken car or some debris can be removed from track so that it is clear to go racing again. The safety car will then pull back into the pit lane and the leader will control the pace and the race will restart. The VSC, the virtual safety car, is a new addition. It's been, how long's the virtual safety car been a part of F1 now, guys? 10 years? 10 years now, I think it's been, since the hybrid era came in. The virtual safety car is where race control are able to basically push a button, and rather than a safety car actually coming out on track, it neutralizes the race for a short period of time, so that the drivers, they get a delta, they get a timer basically that they have to stay within, and then they are not able to go any quicker than that. If they go quicker than it, then they'll receive a penalty because it is against the rules. It's unsafe, basically, and then they go racing again in the same position. We're basically kind of roughly maintaining the same gaps that they had out on track, so that not everyone bunches straight up. But yes, it is a 2-stop strategy today, yeah. 2014, Sid, yeah. Since Jules, okay, so yeah, 2014. I think it's like the hybrid era, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you, Finn. Much appreciated. That's a nice, kind comment of you there. My full name is Scott Tuffey, hence the name, Stuffey. That's where it comes from. My first initial and my last name. This is for you, multi-viewer, guys, multi-viewer. Eccleston didn't like his entourage at the track or Hamilton's seating process. Stowing this package made Bernie feel bad. What's that? With Lando being a bit of a diva lately, I think Max would rather Piastri win the driver's title, so that could be interesting. I don't think Lando's been a diva recently. I think people like to look into things. I think there's a lot of hypocritical nature online in relation to it. Their driver can do something of the like and say something which they think is absolutely cool, and they're like, "Ah, how wicked was that he said that?" And then another driver says it, and they're like, oh, what an idiot. How dare he say that? So, I'm a Ferrari fan. I wouldn't call myself a Ferrari fan, actually. I bought this because I actually like the merch. I don't think a lot of F1 merch is actually nice. Like, do you guys agree with me there? I actually don't think a lot of F1 merch is actually that nice. And it's also expensive. But I did like this. And I am a Lewis Hamilton fan, so yes, maybe I've been a bit more inclined to buy this shirt because Lewis Hamilton is part of F1 now. But yeah, I've literally got 2 shirts in my wardrobe that are F1 because I think the merch is not great. And one of them I got for free. So this is the only one I've ever bought with my own money. Thanks, Ken. 100% agree. It is expensive. Red Bull fans, I am offended. Actually, I think Red Bull's shirts are probably some of the best. I do. And even though I'm not a Red Bull fan, and I won't wear a Red Bull shirt, but I actually think Red Bull's is probably, because it's quite just, like, it's just a couple of colours, you know? It's like no fancy patterns, or it's not really too out there. So, yeah. Many big discounts this weekend because of Black Friday. Yep, it is indeed. Most merch is not cotton. I hate those synthetic feeling fabric. Does not, yeah. Right, so, guys, we have the poll running at the moment for who is going to win the Qatar Grand Prix, and I am about to end it because there's another poll that I want to run. And, well, with over 5,000 votes here, you guys have voted that Max Verstappen is going to win this race. Lots of Max Verstappen fans there. He could lead into Turn 1. That is a possibility. 46% Max Verstappen, Oscar Piastri 34%, Lando Norris 17%, and many of you writing George Russell off on 3%. But let's have another poll because I want this one. Wait for it. So. There we go. I could put more options. I only have 4 available. What position does Max Verstappen exit Turn 1 in? We know Turn 1 is important here, especially for Max Verstappen, who starts 3rd place and will start directly behind Piastri. We have seen incidents in the 1st and 2nd corners here. Every time we have come to this race circuit, we saw Lewis Hamilton make it 3 wide, starting from 3rd place last year down into Turn 1, and he ended up out of the race. So will he finish? Will he not finish, but will he exit Turn 1 in the lead? Will he be 2nd ahead of Lando Norris? Or will he stay where he is? Or could we see a DNF just like Lewis Hamilton did last year, with him just being overzealous into that 1st corner? He's got to go for it. We know it. But what do you guys think? What do you guys think? 2nd and takes the lead after the pit stop. Ooh, that's an interesting one. The majority of you think he's going to get ahead of Lando. More of you, I guess, have faith in Oscar Piastri maintaining the lead down into Turn 1. That's understandable. I do think Piastri will lead at the end of the 1st lap. Lando and Max is the interesting one. We need Mad Max back. He's going to be Mad Max today, I think. So Max got a pole in Imola 2025. He has. But starting from... Did he start 3rd place in Imola, or does he start 2nd at Imola? I can't remember where he started, Max, in Imola. But yes, really, he has to do something like that. So we'll see. One day you'll make it to a GP race, Dexterity. Yeah, there's more opportunities for you in the US now, of course. Plot twist, all the cars stall and Stroll takes the lead. Hasn't Lando had the best start so far? Yes, however, important information here today, guys, is that Lando, by being P2, he starts on the dirty side of the grid. He starts in on the right-hand side of the grid, as it'll be on the left-hand side as you look at it from TV coverage, but he starts on the right. And here we go. Tyre blankets off. Tyre blankets off. And, well, okay. Interesting. Medium compound tyres for Max Verstappen. I thought he may go for the hards. I thought he may go for an alternative strategy. But potentially, because he knows that turn one is so important here today, he has gone for the level of grip that he needs on that racing side of the circuit to ensure he stays ahead of Lando Norris into turn one and stays, importantly, in this championship for one more race weekend. Lewis Hamilton starts on the softs. Hulkenberg on the softs. We only have two drivers on the hard compound tyre, Alex Albon and Franco Colapinto. I thought we'd see more on the hards. To be honest with you. But seems that is not the case. They don't have only one set of hard compound tyres available to use. But Lewis Hamilton and Nico Hulkenberg will be pitting early. They're looking to get a good start, and then they'll be straight onto the mediums, no doubt, or maybe the hards in the middle stint. So, interesting information there, guys. Interesting information. Right. Quick lube break for myself. We have just under 3.5 minutes remaining of this run up to the formation lap. So I suggest you guys to go do the same. Top up on your beverages, top up on your snacks, because turn one is going to be, it's going to be juicy. Remember to hit that like button as well. Get this stream to over 1,000 likes before the race begins. It'd be much appreciated. And if you yet to subscribe yet, please do. Back in a jiffy. Oh, right. I am ready. Are you? Are you ready? Let's go. Not long to go. Get your votes in the poll, by the way. Just a few moments left. Which position is Max Verstappen going to lead? Which Max Verstappen is he going to position? Is he going to exit turn one in first place, and second place is neck and neck at 36%, third place 20%, and a DNF is 9%. He has to go for it. He has to go broke or go home at the end of the day is Max Verstappen's motto here today. Turn one, that's why he's starting on the medium compound tyre. I did think he would start on the hards, maybe try and do something alternatively with the strategy, but there still is an opportunity to do something alternative with the strategy. I think he's going to try and go for the undercut and force McLaren's hands. That is going to be very interesting. We, of course, will keep an eye out on that as much as possible. Lap 32 is a key one here today. Of course, if you pit before lap 32, then in your second pit stop, you will end up making a third pit stop. So we'll keep a keen eye on that, whoever makes their third pit stop. So let's move that there, and that way we've got a bit extra there because we're going to need all those columns today. I think we're going to need all those columns. Oh, here we go. Here we go. You shouldn't get any ads now. No, you shouldn't get any ads. Only when you come in. So, right. Here we go. No rain. 0% chance of rain. Hang on. Where's the race control gone? Where's the race control gone? There we go. Let's bring that back. Let's bring that back. There we go. That's what we wanted. There we go. Formation lap should be getting underway any second now. Ooh. any second. The formation lap should be getting underway. There we go. Here we go. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited, guys. I hope you are too. I hope you're excited too. Let's have a rundown of your starting grid for the Qatar Grand Prix. We could have a brand new world champion at the end of this race, but let's run through it. Oscar Piastri starts on pole position for the second time here this weekend after his brilliant sprint pole and his win yesterday. Can he do the same here again today and stop his teammates from winning the World Championship with one race remaining? That's all that Lando needs to do. I say it's all we need to do. It's a big ask for him starting in P2, and especially with Max Verstappen starting a position behind him on the racing line. Lando Norris starts P2, a position ahead of Max, but he is on the dirtier side of the racetrack. How much will that affect him with his race start? We are moments away from finding out. Max Verstappen, if he finishes one position behind Lando today, he will mathematically be out of the championship with one race remaining. So he has to beat Lando to have still an opportunity of winning the championship in Abu Dhabi. George Russell, don't count him out playing a role today in P4 with Kimi Antonelli in P5 on a good run of form. Isaac Hadjar in P6, another great qualifying from him with Carlos Sainz in P7. They're going to resume their battle that they had in the sprint race yesterday. Fernando Alonso having a great weekend. He's in P8 and Pierre Gasly getting that Alpine up into P10. Faster than both Ferraris. Unbelievable drive from him yesterday in qualifying with Charles Leclerc starting P10. How will that Ferrari's rear end stay pointing the right direction? Nico Hulkenberg starts on the soft compound tyres with Lawson in P12, Behrman in P13, Alex Albon, one of two drivers starting on the hards, Sonoda in P15, Esteban Ocon in 16th, Lewis Hamilton starts 17th with the second driver to start on the soft compound tyres as well. Expect him to try and be aggressive at the start. Lance Stroll starts in 18th, Bortoletto 19th, and Franco Colapinto is the only driver to start from the pit lane and the only second driver to start on the hard compound tyre. We're moments away from the Qatar Grand Prix getting underway, guys. 57 laps here. Remember, there is a mandatory two tyre pit stop that has to occur here. No more than 25 laps can be conducted on a set of tyres. If they do that, then they will be disqualified today. We could even see a free stop. The undercut is powerful. There's lots of different permutations here in relation to strategy today, and I think that is going to be utilised at a racetrack where we know it is difficult to overtake. So, moments away here from the race getting underway. Our penultimate race of the season. It's been a very long one, and the championship is still up for grabs. But who is going to lead out of turn one? Who is going to lead at the end of the first lap? Because they will definitely have the advantage throughout this race, you do presume, with clean air being king. That is the aim of Oscar Piastri. That's also the aim of Verstappen and Lando Norris. Oh, here we go. Making their way to the back of the grid now. Lewis Hamilton, Lance Stroll, Gabriel Bortoletto. Franco Colapinto starts from the pit lane. Here we go. Welcome, everyone. It's green light, away we go at the Qatar Grand Prix. Who is going to lead out of the exit of turn one? We are about to find out on this long run down into turn one, as the timing tower is having a bit of a fritz there, but Max Verstappen has got ahead of Lando Norris. But will he stay ahead out of the exit of turn one? He does indeed. As predicted, Max Verstappen is ahead of Lando Norris, and if he stays ahead of him, his championship hopes stay alive, and that is wonderful for Oscar Piastri and his championship hopes, because he now has a position between him and his teammate. Kimi Antonelli has got ahead of his teammate, as George Russell has now lost 3 positions at the start of this race. A very poor start for the Mercedes driver, as Max Verstappen just had a much better launch than Lando Norris and was comfortably ahead of Lando down into turn one, and Lando had no response. He didn't even have to worry about going wheel to wheel. He did try and come back at Max though down into turn 4, and well, Max Verstappen has held him off, and Kimi Antonelli is all over the back of Lando as well. Have to be careful about Kimi Antonelli, who has already thwarted Max Verstappen's championship hopes this year with a collision back all the way in Austria. But Max Verstappen in P2, we have Norris in P3, Antonelli is 4th with Sainz up 2 places into P5, Fernando Alonso is up 2 places into P6, Russell down 3 places into P7, Hadjar is down 2 places as well. Lewis Hamilton down in 14th. He's gained 3 places at the start of this race. We've been one of 2 drivers to start on the soft compound tyre. But as we complete the first racing lap here at the Qatar Grand Prix, Oscar Piastri leads by 1.3 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen, with Lando a further 1.1 seconds back from Max. Antonelli is in the DRS, with DRS now yet to be activated, it seems. Although DRS should be activated, it should have been activated this time around, to be fair. The next time they come round at the end of this lap, as Nico Hülkenberg, the other driver on the set of soft compound tyres, gets ahead of Charles Leclerc, who no doubt is having issues with that Ferrari here this weekend. Starting in P10, he's now down into P11, and Lewis Hamilton is up 3 places into P14. Ollie Behrman has gained a position, as has Esteban Ocon as well. Alex Albon has had a very poor start, starting on the hard compound tyre, and well, that's probably why we haven't seen so many starts on the hard compound tyre here. Oscar Piastri, as he did yesterday, putting out a gap, quite considerable gap at the start of this race, 1.7 seconds over Max Verstappen, as Lando is 1.4 seconds, 1.5 seconds back from Max right now. As it stands, Lando Norris would only be gaining 15 points here. Oscar Piastri would be gaining 10 points. 10 points on Lando Norris. The gap would be 12 points heading into Abu Dhabi next weekend if Oscar Piastri wins this race and Lando Norris finishes third. But we still have 55 laps remaining here at the Qatar Grand Prix. Oscar Piastri has had the perfect start here, and so has, well, Max Verstappen hasn't quite had the perfect start because he'd love to be P1, but Oscar Piastri had a great start, a great launch on the racing side, as did Max, and Max got ahead of Lando. There was always concerns of Lando starting on the dirtier side of the racetrack, and well, even though he had an okay start, it wasn't as good as Max Verstappen's. DRS has now been activated. You can see Kimi Antonelli is in the DRS of Lando Norris. None of the front 3 are within DRS of one another, but of course they're probably thinking about the long game here and maybe already going into tyre saving mode. We saw the sprint race yesterday, but it was very difficult to overtake when you are on the same set of tyres. So you have to think about the long game here, and of course there is a 2 mandatory pit stop that is going to occur here with 25 age lap tyres is the oldest that they can run. If they go over 25 laps, they will be disqualified from this race, as mandated by Pirelli and the FIA here this weekend, which does leave it open for varying strategy options here today. I do suspect we are going to see drivers pit early to utilise the undercut and get clean air because we know how important clean air is. Fernando Alonso is looking at the rear wing of Carlos Sainz, but Nico Hülkenberg is the aggressive driver out there at the moment. He's all under the rear wing of Pierre Gasly as he's on the soft compound tyre, and Charles Leclerc cannot stay with Nico Hülkenberg in the Stake F1 car, who's on a set of softs. So Hülkenberg, much quicker than Charles Leclerc, and looking to pull out a gap to the Ferrari behind him and get ahead of Pierre Gasly. He is the closest out there on circuit as we have completed the 3rd lap of this race. Oscar Piastri leads now by 2.1 seconds from Max Verstappen, with Lando Norris a further 1.6 seconds back. Antonelli is falling back from Lando Norris, even though he has the DRS, but there looks like there could be an overtake here by by Nico Hülkenberg on Pierre Gasly, as Pierre Gasly has been noted for rejoining the track unsafely. Not entirely sure where that's occurred at turn 14. Not entirely sure on lap 4 that was. So that's been noted. Sorry, lap 4. I'm not entirely sure what lap exactly that occurred, but maybe that is why Nico Hülkenberg is all under the rear wing. But Hülkenberg unable to get past the Alpine driver there. I'm keen to see how long these soft compound tyres are going to last for, as Lewis Hamilton finds himself under the rear wing of Liam Lawson right now, and he's only a couple of positions back from his teammate Charles Leclerc, who is down a position in P11. But no incidents thus far to make note of. Keeping a keen eye on the track limits today, as well, as we saw track limits penalties be dished out to Yuki Tsunoda and also Kimi Antonelli yesterday, and Yuki Tsunoda already has one track limits violation, so we'll keep an eye out on that because that could play a role. But none of the top 3 are championship contenders. None of them have track limits violations right now. And well, we can see Max Verstappen maybe consciously already dropping back behind Oscar Piastri just into this tyre saving mode, as maybe Lando Norris has as well. Kimi Antonelli still staying within that DRS of Lando Norris. Does he stay within out of the last corner? He does indeed. So Lando Norris looking to try and manage this first stint and not lose too much ground to Max Verstappen. The McLarens do have the overall better race pace here this weekend, but we know how difficult it is to overtake. It's going to be done on strategy, you do think, and whether or not Max Verstappen can make that Red Bull, the performance here in the medium to high speed corners, whether it is improved from the sprint race yesterday. We will see. Qualifying was much better for him with a gap to the McLarens, but on a full race on high fuel, it could be a very different story. TV shows the Ferrari sliding all over the place. Yet doesn't. That's no surprise to me, as Lewis Hamilton got pushed out wide by Liam Lawson there around the corner. So I'm not sure if that will be investigated, whether Lewis Hamilton had his car sufficiently alongside Liam Lawson. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe he just wasn't far enough out, as Charles Leclerc got pushed out. He tried to stay in the corner, but Nico Hülkenberg pushed Charles Leclerc out of racing room there, as he's technically entitled to do, as Pierre Gasly was noted for rejoining the track unsafely. I just watched it, and I don't think really that was unsafe. I don't know what else Pierre Gasly is supposed to do there, really. He only just ran wide, and it does look like Pierre Gasly has damage to the underside of his floor from running wide here, and this is what can happen here at the Qatar GP. If you run too wide, if you go through those gravel traps and you go over those aggressive curbs, you will lose performance with damage to the underside of your car, just as Max Verstappen did in qualifying on the Friday, and just as Lando Norris also said that he did as well. And one of the reasons why he backed out of his qualifying lap yesterday was to ensure he caused no damage to the underside of his floor. But the top three are separated by 4 seconds. Oscar Piastri leads as well. Pierre Gasly is noted a black and white flag for rejoining unsafely. I actually think he's been a bit hard done by there. I'd need to see it again, but from his onboard, I don't think it was too. I don't think there was really anything too much more that he could do there. But anyway, he's on a black and white flag for rejoining unsafely. Pierre Gasly. Piastri leads by 2.1 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen, who did set the fastest lap of the race last time around, but only a couple of hundredths of a second. Lando Norris is P3, 2.2 seconds back from Verstappen and 4.5 seconds back from his teammate who leads this race. Kimi Antonelli, importantly, is out of the DRS, and we can see there is a big DRS train behind Pierre Gasly, who has just been given that black and white flag for rejoining unsafely. The top 6 are not within DRS of one another. George Russell is in the DRS of Fernando Alonso, as Isaac Hadjar is trying to get the DRS on that free, as he finds himself in P8. Both George Russell and Isaac Hadjar down 3 places and 2 places at the start of this race. Not quite sure exactly what happened at the start of the race. Yet to see a replay, but no doubt they probably got wedged in somewhere and just got overtaken by a few cars. Esteban Ocon, full start, moving before the signal. Esteban Ocon noted for a full start. That's normally a 5-second time penalty, as we know, unless there's extenuating circumstances. But Esteban Ocon in P15 right now on the medium compound tyre, up a position from where he started, trying to chase down Lewis Hamilton, as Lewis Hamilton on the side, as we have an overtake here from Nico Hülkenberg on Pierre Gasly, and Nico Hülkenberg on the soft compound tyre, as Nico Hülkenberg's off. Nico Hülkenberg is around. What has happened to Hülkenberg? Has there been a collision? What is falling through the field? Nico Hülkenberg on the soft compound tyre. There's a double yellow, or is he actually off into the gravel? And the icon there, could we see a safety car at the start of this race, as Pierre Gasly is also falling through the field as well? There's been contact between Nico Hülkenberg and Pierre Gasly, and has Nico Hülkenberg, as he did a few years ago, and we have a safety car in the early stages of this race. Nico Hülkenberg and Pierre Gasly, as, oh my goodness, Nico Hülkenberg, he's off the track, the right rear is off the car, and polystyrene is everywhere, as he has made a collision with Pierre Gasly. He has gone through one of the polystyrene markers on the side of the track. Gasly's car is running, he's broken his suspension. Pierre Gasly has a puncture, and he's setting the car alight on the underside of the car. Looks like Pierre Gasly may be able to get back to the pit lane, but we have a safety car here. Now, will anyone decide to pit onto fresh tyres? It's probably still just a bit too early. No, Max pits. Max Verstappen pits here. Bold from the Red Bull team. Kimi Antonelli also pits as well. Carlos Sainz pits. Anyone else deciding to pit? Fernando Alonso pits. Both McLaren stay out. So Red Bull decide to pit here. While Max Verstappen was in P2, he has decided to pit and relinquish his P2 from Lando Norris. But of course, we know that in the grandstanding of today's race, there's still a very long way to go. And with that mandatory 2-stop going to be required, well, we thought, would it be taken at the start of the race or at the end of the race? It looks like that Max Verstappen has decided to take it at the start of the race here, and we have basically the whole field, barring the two McLarens and Esteban Ocon, pitting here at the start of this race. That is interesting. Have McLaren missed a trick here? Have Max Verstappen and the rest of the field played an absolute blinder? We will see. But with 50 laps remaining, that is very, very intriguing. Not entirely sure. Will McLaren aren't going to pit now because everyone's going to get up behind them. This is very, very intriguing, guys. Welcome if you are just tuning in. What an opening first couple of laps here we have had. Max Verstappen got a great start, launched himself into P2 ahead of Lando Norris with a great start. There's a 5-second time penalty confirmed for Esteban Ocon for moving before the signal. I think that's probably why they didn't decide to pit Esteban Ocon, because they were waiting for that penalty, because he will be able to take that penalty now under this safety car. So clever decision there for the Haas team to leave Esteban Ocon out, because that has been confirmed that he has come through. But I'm yet to see a replay of actually what happened with Nico Hülkenberg and Pierre Gasly. But they'd already Pierre Gasly had already been given a black and white flag for rejoining the track and maybe forcing Nico Hülkenberg off a little bit there. As I'm now seeing the replay of Nico Hülkenberg and Pierre Gasly. What actually happened? So Nico Hülkenberg in the slipstream with the DRS on the soft compound tyre. He went for a move around the outside and he was on the soft compound tyre. And, I think Hülkenberg has... Let's just watch that again. It looks like it's more so a bit more of a racing incident. So Pierre Gasly... Pierre Gasly's left Hülkenberg plenty of room there. I think Nico Hülkenberg has just kept it a bit too tight around the outside. And he didn't... Yeah, so Hülkenberg didn't want to go on the curb on the exit of turn 1. And Pierre Gasly... I don't think Pierre Gasly is really... I think that's just kind of a racing incident. So Hülkenberg says he left him loads of space. I don't know, it's one of those... technically speaking, that's going to be Pierre Gasly's fault, because Pierre Gasly had technically lost the corner as Nico Hülkenberg had his front axle ahead of Gasly's into that corner at the apex. But there we go. There we go. That's definitely on Gasly. Yeah, it looks like it as per the racing rules. I wouldn't say he opened his steering, though, Pierre Gasly. He just kind of held a consistent... Yeah. So, but technically speaking, it's not his corner anymore, and that's why we have seen the collision there and why Nico Hülkenberg is out of this race. But welcome, everyone, if you're just tuning in. We have a safety car here. The two McLarens are the only drivers yet to make a pit stop here. They have stayed out on the medium compound tyre. Everyone else has decided to get rid of one of those mandatory pit stops early in this race. With it being a 57-lap race, there is a mandatory 2 pit stop here, with 25 laps having to be conducted, no more on one set of tyres. Lap 32 is now the key here, though. So, lap 7, 32, 25 laps. So, on this set of medium compound tyres, we are expecting, potentially, those who can make it to lap 32 here on the medium compound tyre, they will get the benefit. As Norris says, we should have just followed him in. They have lost all their flexibility for the remainder of the race, is what McLaren have said for everyone else on the grid. And that's correct, because the maths is correct that they pitted on lap 7. They all pitted on lap 7 for this safety car. That means that they have to, if they want to make it a 2-stop race and make it to the end of this race, they have to do the maximum amount of laps that is possible on this tyre as mandated by Pirelli. That is 25. They have to pit lap 32. That is the limit of this tyre. That is the limit of Pirelli. And that will then take them 25 laps on the last tyre to the end of the race. Otherwise, they have to commit to the free stop, which means they will lose time in the pit lane. So actually, McLaren have left themselves it might look like they may lose a couple of positions here at the early, or it doesn't look good for them. But actually, we know that it is very, very high degradation here at Qatar. And it might not work too well for them. As it looks like there, the icon of Norris actually just allowed Max Verstappen to get ahead. So did Max Verstappen just go ahead of Lando Norris there into turn 2? Science is up to P4. He is indeed. Yes. So we'll run through the grid in a second when the safety car is going to be coming in. What is Max Verstappen being told on the radio? We're about to find out what he's being told. And then I'll run through the grid as everyone has made a pit stop now, barring the two McLarens who have left their strategy open for flexibility. But we have Piastri in P1, Norris in P2, still yet to make a pit stop. Verstappen is back into P3 where he started this race. Hang on. Max has been told the McLarens will push hard at the start of this race. The safety car is back in. We have Piastri P1, Norris P2, Verstappen P3. Carlos Sainz is up 3 places into P4 with Antonelli 5th. Alonso is back up to 6th. Is up 2 places to 6th. George Russell has lost 4 positions at the start of this race. He pitted under the safety car there and looks like he had a poor pit stop. The only place you can overtake in under safety car conditions is in the pit lane. We have Hamilton down there in P14 up 3 places. Bortoletto is up 4 places. Pierre Gasly with that collision is now on the hard compound tyre. He is down 9 places. And Esteban Ocon is at the back of the grid here after getting that 5-second time penalty for a full stop. And Hulkenberg is the early retirement which brought out this safety car. But we are about to go racing again here at the Qatar circuit. At the GP, we have 48 laps remaining. And, well, Oscar Piastri leads Lando Norris. The safety car is in. And Oscar has gone very early here. He's trying to displace the dirty air behind him so that his teammate will not have an opportunity. DRS will not be active until another lap here. And Max Verstappen is in P3. He's half a second behind, but without the assistance of DRS, I don't think he's going to have an opportunity to get Norris down into turn 1. And Carlos Sainz in P4 has lost a bit of ground to Verstappen at the early stage of this restart as well. As we have Charles Leclerc going side by side with George Russell into turn 1. Can Leclerc keep that Ferrari pointing forwards? We know how tricky it's been to drive this weekend, and he's been unable to get past George there, who is unable to have a good start to this race. He is down 4 places, down from 4th place to P8. We thought he may have involvement here in this race today, but it doesn't seem like, as Oscar Piastri did the fastest first sector there of 31.597, so a good start to the race here for Oscar Piastri. Lando Norris is already 1 second behind his teammate, and Max Verstappen is 1.1 seconds behind. But we have different strategies here from the 2 front runners of the McLarens in Piastri and Norris, as they will be going, no doubt, probably to lap 25 on the medium compound tyre. Max Verstappen and the rest of the field, with this 25 lap limit on these tyres, they will have to take this tyre to that 25 lap limit if they want to make a 2-stop work here today. That's a big if. That's a big if. Otherwise, they will lose 26 seconds out on track by making an extra pit stop, because with the 25 tyre lap limit that is here, they will not be able to achieve that if they pit before lap 32. So lap 32 is the key number here. That is what we're going to be looking at, and we'll be keeping a keen eye on those lap times as well in relation to those McLarens, as Oscar Piastri sets the fastest lap of the race there. Wow, look at that. 6 tenths quicker than Lando Norris. Clean air. Oh dear, Esteban Ocon. It's going to happen again. It's happened again. Esteban Ocon failing to serve a time penalty correctly. Wasn't it a few years ago where Esteban Ocon got 15-second worth of 5-second time penalties? Well, he's been noted for failing to serve a time penalty correctly again. Unbelievable. 5-second penalty for Ocon. That's no doubt coming his way. Real shame for Ocon. Another 5-second time penalty. He's down in 18th. He's ahead of Pierre Gasly, who has damage to his Alpine. And, well, yes, that is what is going to happen for him. But the McLaren's on full push at the moment. They are looking to try and fend off this undercut of Max Verstappen and those behind, because Max has pitted early here. He is on 4 lap-old mediums, and, well, it is a full attack mode for those 2 McLarens. Of course, Oscar can push a lot harder than Lando, as Lando is in the dirty air. Of course, Lando here is looking to win this race and win the overall Drivers' Championship here today. But as it stands, if Lando Norris was to finish P2, Oscar Piastri would cut that deficit down from 22 points to 15. As Norris would only be gaining 18 points and Piastri would be gaining 25. Max Verstappen did pit and relinquish second place down into, from the safety car here, but he's trying to force the hand of the McLarens, and it's clever from Red Bull. I expected they'd try something different in relation to strategy at the start of this race, but I didn't expect it to be this early on in under safety car. No further investigation for Esteban Ocon, so just a single 5-second time penalty for Esteban Ocon. No further investigation for Nico Hulkenberg and Pierre Gasly for causing a collision. Interesting set of decision there for Pierre Gasly and Nico Hulkenberg. Maybe one to review after this race or in the week after. See whether the stewards deem that correctly or not. Of course, always stay tuned after the race ends, guys, so that we can have a chat and review the goings-on and happenings in this race. But right now, with 13 laps, on the 13th lap of this 57-lap, 45 remaining, Oscar Piastri leads 1.8 seconds ahead of Lando Norris. They are on full push. They are trying to fend off the undercut of Max Verstappen, who pitted early under that safety car conditions and is on 5-lap old mediums. He has to make it. He has to do the full 25 laps on this set of mediums to make a two-stop work here today, as does everyone else on the grid. There are no other drivers out there who have that level of flexibility other than Esteban Ocon other than Esteban Ocon. So the two McLarens have the flexibility. You can see the clean air, how important it is for drivers out here at this Qatar circuit, because Piastri is 1.9 seconds ahead of Norris now. He's just gained 4 tenths on him this lap. The previous lap he gained around 6 tenths. Super quick for Oscar Piastri, as they are both in full push mode. He has been the quicker driver here this weekend. Lando Norris still would lead with 15 points into the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, which is a week, only one more week away to secure the championship if he doesn't win it today. Max Verstappen has to finish ahead of Lando Norris, otherwise he will be mathematically out of the championship, as he will be outside of that 25-point gap to Lando Norris. Still outside of his control, even if he is within the 25-point gap, but mathematically you want to still be involved, because anything can happen. Carlos Sainz is up 3 places in 4th place. He is fending off Antonelli, who is just behind him in 5th. Alonso gained an extra position under the safety car conditions into P6, as George Russell lost 4 places overall at the start. He is down into 8th place with Isaac Hadjar just ahead of him. Charles Leclerc is back up into P9 with that collision of Nico Hulkenberg and Pierre Gasly. Ollie Behrman is up 3 places into P10. Lawson up a position in 11th. Sonoda is 12th, up 3 places. Albon is up up a place in 13th. Hamilton is up 3 places in 14th. Bortoletto is in 15th. Stroll 16th. Colapinto is 17th. Ocon is 18th after taking that 5-second time penalty for a false start. And Pierre Gasly is now down 10 places into 19th after that collision with Nico Hulkenberg that forced the German driver to retire from this race and bring out that early safety car. So Oscar Piastri again makes 2 and a bit tenths up on his teammate on that last lap. The gap to Lando and Oscar is 2.2 seconds. Max Verstappen 4.1 seconds, but he has to think about the bigger picture here overall. He was told they were going to push, so do not fear seeing those papaya cars move off into the distance. He'll be given a delta and a lap time that he needs to achieve, but of course he needs to make sure that those medium compound tyres last to that 25 lap tyre life, lap 32, to ensure he doesn't lose 26 seconds in the pit lane. That is the pit stop loss time here under safety car condition. Under full conditions. Under safety car, actually, they all got cheap pit stops. So that's something to note as well. That everyone who pitted under safety car conditions got a cheap pit stop of an additional 10.5 seconds. And that is why the McLarens are on full push right now. So Max Verstappen will inherit the lead once Norris and Piastri decide to pit. And then they will, in turn, be on full push to try and cut down that 10.5-second gap, which is what they're trying to do, or that 10.5-second advantage that Max Verstappen gained while pitting under the safety car. And well, we know that if Max leads from the front, he's going to make that Red Bull as wide as possible, even at a circuit here where his tyres will be a lot older than that of Piastri and Norris. So this is shaping up, actually. Now I'm doing the mental maths in my head. This is shaping up to be an intriguing race towards the end, because the McLarens have to try and cut out that 10.5-second advantage that Verstappen gained pitting under safety car conditions. But will Verstappen be able to make those tyres last a full 25 laps? Will everyone be able to do so? I reckon some will, and I reckon some will have to commit to that free stop and maybe be more aggressive. Will we see another safety car? We will see. Alonso holding up the entire field right now. He is indeed, yes, a big old DRS train behind Fernando Alonso, all the way from 6th place down to 16th is DRS activated. Fernando Alonso, who is 15 seconds behind Oscar Piastri, is holding up pretty much the entire field here behind him, other than Franco Colapinto, Esteban Ocon, and Pierre Gasly, who no doubt will be on the back of that field as well. Oh, yellow flag infringement. Lance Stroll is being notified there for a yellow flag infringement. So not entirely sure what that is in relation to. Maybe he overtook when he wasn't supposed to or didn't sufficiently slow down. But Lance Stroll, who is down in 16th here, is not having the best time here this weekend compared to his teammate, for sure, who is further 10 places up above him. Oh, my goodness. Bortoleto has been noted for a yellow flag infringement. Alex Albon has been noted for a yellow flag infringement. So 3 notifications there of 3 drivers, 3 separate drivers notified for a yellow flag infringement in quick succession, notified on the same lap, but not sure where that occurred. So we'll see what comes of that. But Alex Albon is in P13, Gabriel Bortoleto is 15th, and Lance Stroll is 16th. But back to the top, right at the front for this championship battle. Oscar Piastri leads 2.8 seconds ahead of Lando Norris, with Lando Norris is 4.7 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen. That clean air, Oscar Piastri making use of it, but he has been the quicker driver here this weekend. He is continuing to pull out that gap on his teammate. Max Verstappen, 4.7 seconds behind. He doesn't have to worry about Carlos Sainz behind, who is having a stonking end of the season, isn't he? He is 3.6 seconds behind Max Verstappen, up 3 places here, with Kimi Antonelli a further 2 seconds back in P5. And well, you imagine these drivers are all in kind of tyre management mode to try and make this tyre run the full 25 laps that is required here to ensure that 2-stop is viable for them. Otherwise, they'll have to make an additional pit stop. That gap to Lando Norris has now gone out to 3 seconds. So they have another 8 laps remaining, Norris and Piastri, before they have to pit off of the medium compound tyre. So they'll be trying to make that go as long as possible. Of course, they're going to be looking for a gap to pit into as well. 26 seconds is the gap, and well, if they were to pit right now, Oscar Piastri would come out right behind Lance Stroll and in between Colapinto. So they're also trying to find themselves a gap here out on track to pit into. That is why they're also on full push mode, because there isn't one for them. They need to try and get ahead of Fernando Alonso, or Fernando Alonso needs to really hold up the pack some more. They have 8 laps to do it, because that right now is not, there is no gap for them to pit into. They would come out right into the middle of that pack that Fernando Alonso is currently holding up. So will they be able to do it? We will see. They're currently around 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds quicker per lap. So if they continue this pace, they will do so. But it is definitely push for the 2 McLarens. Another day beating the biological clock for Fernando Alonso. Unbelievable. It is true. It is true. Fernando Alonso, give him a championship-winning car, and I think you'll see him fight for a championship, genuinely. And it's very well possible that he could find himself in a championship-winning car when we head into 2026, because who knows who is going to be quickest, of course, with that Honda power unit that they'll be utilising next year, the only team to do so. If Honda make a cracker of an engine, then they will be the team to beat, you imagine. But Piastri, as he rounds the last corner for the 18th time, he leads to 3.2 seconds ahead of Lando Norris, 3.3 seconds ahead of his teammate right now, with Max Verstappen 7.8 seconds further back, who has made a pit stop. He's just under 25.759 there, Max Verstappen. That was 2 tenths quicker than that of Lando Norris. So Lando Norris losing a bit of time to his teammate and also to Max Verstappen. Remember, Lando Norris was P3 until the safety car came out, where Max Verstappen relinquished the position to be able to make that early pit stop. Carlos Sainz is up 3 places in P4. He is 5.4 seconds behind Max Verstappen. Max doesn't have to worry about him. Kimi Antonelli is 2.5 seconds behind Sainz, so Antonelli falling back as well, as there's confirmation here of Bortoleto and Lance Stroll. No further investigation for the yellow flag infringement. That's 2 out of the 3 cars who are being investigated. We're just awaiting Alex Albon confirmation. I wonder if he is the only driver who will be penalised. We are yet to have that confirmation. Further down the grid, we have Fernando Alonso in P6, currently holding up the rest of the field there. Isaac Hadjar in P7, George Russell P8, Charles Leclerc P9, Ollie Bearman P10, Lawson 11th, Tsunoda 12th, Albon 13th, Hamilton 14th, Bortoleto 15th, and Lance Stroll 16th. All of those drivers behind Fernando Alonso are in the DRS. However, Isaac Hadjar has just lost the DRS on Fernando Alonso, but now he's regained it. So there are 10 drivers there within a DRS train, all led by Fernando Alonso. Colapinto is in 17th, Esteban Ocon is 18th, and Gasly is 19th, with Hulkenberg the only retirement of this race. And there we go, confirmation, 3 for 3. No further investigation. Yellow flag infringement for Alex Albon. Not entirely sure why they were being investigated anyway, but they don't have to worry about penalties incoming their way. So Lando Norris set the fastest last sector out of anyone there, a 24.522. That was a 10th quicker than his teammate, but he is still 3.5 seconds nearly behind Oscar Piastri, who is pulling out a gap here on his championship rival and teammates. He is looking to extend this championship to the last race of the season and reduce that gap down from 22 points to 15. It would be a great effort for this weekend. Oscar Piastri, who has been well off the pace recently, but has arrived at a circuit here where he's succeeded and been successful in the past. And he has made it 3 for 3 in sprint race wins in a row here. And, well, he's now looking to win his first race in 8 races at the Qatar circuit, or here in Losail in Qatar. So he leads by 3.5 seconds. Max Verstappen 4.3, and identical lap times pretty much from Norris and Verstappen last time around. There will be 6 more laps. They have done 19 laps on this set of tyres, Norris and Piastri. Well, they would have done 20 when they've crossed the finish line. So there's 5 more laps for Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris to find a gap and build a gap to that mid-pack there. At the moment, 26 seconds is the average pit stop loss time. Give or take an extra second for maybe a slow pit stop and drivers getting away. You really want a 27-second gap to those behind. And if you look at it, Oscar Piastri has 27 seconds to Liam Lawson in P11. They need a few more seconds to Fernando Alonso, who is 23 seconds behind. And that is the gap that they're looking for. Alonso, that's what they're trying to do, get ahead of Fernando Alonso, and they are making up time. Oscar Piastri last time around a 25.8, as was Norris with a 25.9. Max also a 25.8, but he's already made that early pit stop. And, well, Fernando Alonso did a 27.3, so they're a second and a half quicker per lap than Fernando Alonso. And that is the gap that they're looking to try and build. 3.5 seconds is the gap now, really, that they're trying to look for. As Alex Albon is noted for a black and white flag for track limits already, and we're only 21 laps into this race with 37 remaining. Alonso, a loyal soldier, holding the rest of the grid back from the championship contenders. Yeah, but to be fair, I'm not sure any of them could go too much quicker, to be honest with you. Maybe George Russell is the only driver who could, but he got off to a poor start anyway. And, well, he is actually falling behind Isaac Hadjar and Fernando Alonso. So it's not the George Russell that we expected to see here today. I don't know if he's running damage here. We have seen, of course, drivers, if they go over those curbs, and especially through the gravel traps, they are likely to pick up damage. And that's maybe what George Russell has done at the start of this race and why he finds himself down in P8. 4 positions down from where he started. That gap, when Fernando Alonso crosses the line, we'll get an update. Piastri, 24.5 seconds is the gap to Piastri and Fernando Alonso. As Piastri makes his way through the second corner, Lando Norris is 3.5 seconds behind. The top 3 lapping almost identical lap times at the moment, only a few hundred separating them, as Fernando Alonso is now 24.4 seconds ahead behind Oscar Piastri. They need another second and a half, but they'd like a few more for a little buffer. They have 4 more laps to do so. And you do think it will be quite comfortable for them, but they're going to have to double stack. That's why Lando maybe is also dropping back a little bit, because they do have to double stack. They're not going to be able to bring one in prior to it. I mean, they can if they want to. There is the opportunity to do that, but will they do the double stack? Front left is struggling a bit now, Oscar Piastri is reporting. Well, he only has a few more laps to contend with, and they've done quite well with the pace. Max Verstappen managing quite nicely with a 25.8. He is going to inherit this race lead, and he will be at the front here. And if there is another safety car, you can imagine where the McLarens will find themselves, or imagine if there was a red flag. What a turn of events that would be. Too risky to double stack. We will see what they decide to do, but there's not only going a few more laps to do so. Oscar Piastri crosses the line now, and that gap is now 25.3 seconds to Fernando Alonso, who still has the last sector to contend with. He is still holding up the rest of the field here. It is almost a Monaco, isn't it, type S track here. Not really any opportunities to overtake unless it is via strategy, but at least we have the strategy to keep us intrigued here today, guys. Big thank you for everyone for tuning in. If you are just tuning in for the first time and you're yet to subscribe, or if you are a long-time viewer here and have forgotten to subscribe, please do. Trying to hit 70,000 subs here this weekend, and we are already at 20,000 viewers for this race. The penultimate race of this 2025 season. Oscar Piastri leads from Lando Norris, as he did at the start of this race, starting from pole position. Max Verstappen did get ahead of Lando Norris at the start with a much better start than Lando, who started on the dirty side of the racetrack, and Max decided to pit under safety car conditions to get a cheaper pit stop and try something different to the McLarens. It's really kind of the only way that he was going to win this race today, and he has an opportunity to do so. Could he still keep himself in this championship fight? If he finishes one position behind Lando Norris like he finds himself in now, with Lando in P2 and Verstappen in P3, he will be mathematically out of this championship with one race remaining. Lando Norris, of course, can still win the championship here today, but he has to get ahead of his teammate and Max Verstappen. And I think what will happen, if my mental maths is correct, I think what we may see is that Max Verstappen will lead this race in the closing stages, and Piastri and Norris are going to have to overtake Max out on track. I think that's what Verstappen and Red Bull have done here, is that they've made sure that Max will have track position, barring any other safety cars. If the race is clean to the end right now, Max will be leading from out front in the closing stages of this race, or at least in the last stint of this race, and he will have to be overtaken by the two McLarens out on track, which is going to be, of course, blockbuster to witness. The championship leaders having to battle it out on track with so much on the line with just this race and next week in Abu Dhabi remaining. Right, that gap update to Fernando Alonso is now 27.2 seconds. There is only one more lap that Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris can complete on this set of tyres before they have to pit. 25 laps is the maximum amount of laps any tyre can do here today in this Qatar Grand Prix, as mandated by Pirelli due to the high amount of loads that is seen here. Oscar Piastri has already reported that the front left is struggling a bit. Well, he did a 25.8 last time out, as Lando Norris did a 25.9. And that gap, with a 26-second average pit stop lost time here at Qatar, one of the longest, is Oscar Piastri going to come into the pits now a lap before then he's allowed to? Yes, Oscar Piastri, no double stack for the McLarens. No double stack for the McLarens. Oscar Piastri pits, and he has a 27, nearly a 28-second gap to Fernando Alonso. Let's see how the pit stop is for McLaren. We know that second pit stop is normally the slower one. Where is he going to come out? How quick was it for Oscar Piastri? He's making his way down the end of the pit lane. It's not going to be a double stack. Fernando Alonso will... Lando Norris will have to pit here. Look how long that pit stop lost time is. It's going to be tight because Fernando Alonso is going full speed here down into turn one, and Oscar Piastri gets out ahead of Fernando Alonso. Good work for him, but it's going to be tight between Norris and Fernando Alonso. That gap is 24.5 seconds. And I tell you what, it's going to be tight here for Lando Norris on this pit stop. It's going to be tight for Lando Norris and that gap to Fernando Alonso. If my calculations are correct, Lando Norris is going to rejoin here around George Russell. He could be slotting in 3 cars behind Oscar Piastri. Let's see what happens here for Lando Norris. The gap is currently 25 seconds to Lando Norris and Fernando Alonso. It's not going to be enough. I think he sat too far back behind Oscar Piastri here. But here we go. And we know that second pit stop for Lando Norris in this McLaren hasn't been good. If you're the second driver to pit here in the McLaren, it's not always best. It's always the slower pit stop. We'll see if that's the case today, as Max Verstappen now takes the lead of the Qatar Grand Prix and leads from Lando Norris. And well, Oscar Piastri, as Carlos Sainz will find himself in second place. But let's keep an eye out on the gap, shall we? Is there a gap for Lando Norris in between George Russell and Charles Leclerc? I think that's where he's going to come out, unless Fernando Alonso has had a really poor lap here and held everyone up behind. But he's trudging his way down the pit lane as Oscar Piastri regains the position ahead. And oh my goodness, how have McLaren and Lando done that? As Fernando Alonso is looking for a move on Lando Norris round the outside into turn one. And all we thought about it. And Lando Norris and I have to give a round of applause for the McLaren team and Lando, because I do not know how they have just managed to stay ahead of Fernando Alonso there. That is absolutely wild that he is still behind Oscar Piastri, because I thought it was a given he was going to end up right fighting. It was a 2.2 second pit stop for Lando Norris and the McLaren team. I don't know the overall pit stop loss time there, but that is, I thought that was a given. He was going to be 3-2 cars behind Oscar Piastri there, so fair play. Maybe Fernando Alonso had a significantly slow lap time. I mean, it was only a 27.1, but yes, wow. Fernando Alonso did get very close to the rear wing of I tell you what, if it was only a couple of hundredths slower, a couple of tenths slower in the pit stop there for Lando Norris, he would have undoubtedly ended up behind Fernando Alonso. That was how close it was as they went into the entry of turn 1. But wow, we have Max Verstappen now, with everyone now making a solitary pit stop here. Max Verstappen leads from Carlos Sainz. Yes, you heard that correctly, from Carlos Sainz by 13 seconds. And, well, we can see here the gap to Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris is 18 seconds and 22 seconds. So Max Verstappen does not have a free pit stop gap ahead of Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. But, of course, they will be pitting in 6 laps' time because they pitted on lap 7. They have to take these tyres to 25 laps. Lap 32 is where they will then, the rest of the field will be making their pit stop. The majority of them will be. As there is a 5-second time penalty for Lance Stroll for speeding in the pit lane. He is down in 19th place, so not going to be very good for him. And, well, his race has just gone from bad to worse as he finds himself down at the back of the field here. Only Nico Hulkenberg is behind him as he is retired from this race from an early collision with Pierre Gasly. So, Carlos Sainz is in P2, Antonelli is P3, Oscar Piastri is in P4 with Lando Norris in P5. Fernando Alonso is in P6, Isaac Hadjar is 7th with George Russell in P8. Charles Leclerc is P9 with Ollie Behrman in P10. Lawson is 11th, Tsunoda is 12th, Alex Albon is 13th, Hamilton 14th, Bortoletto 15th, Colapinto is 16th, Ocon is 17th, Gasly is 18th, Stroll is 19th, and Nico Hulkenberg has retired from this race. So you can see there Oscar Piastri on a brand new set of mediums. They have the flexibility here today to do a couple of different strategies. Will they use the hard compound tyre at the end of this race? I do suspect they will, or maybe they'll go long and use the softs. Piastri is asking, so everyone has to pit on lap 32, right? And they went, yep, that is correct. So Oscar Piastri is catching the back of Kimi Antonelli and Carlos Sainz, but he's going to be held up and receiving the dirty air from those ahead. You suspect from at least another 4 laps. As there is 4 laps remaining here, 3 laps remaining after this one until they have to pit off of that medium compound tyre. And, well, that is what every driver is aiming to do who is on 20-lap-old mediums there or 20-lap-old hards in the form of Pierre Gasly, because if they are unable to do that and take this tyre to the 25-lap maximum, then they would have to commit to a free-stop strategy. And we've just seen how long that pit stop loss time is here, so it's definitely something that you do not want to be taking. But Max Verstappen leads 14.3 seconds ahead of Carlos Sainz. So Piastri, Oscar, and so Lando Norris has been told we can go to lap 49 on this set of tyres. So will they extend it any further? Will they pit maybe before that? Or will they go to lap 49 and go onto the soft compound tyre at the end? Because there is a very big possibility here, if my maths is correct, that they will have to overtake Max Verstappen out on track. And Max Verstappen will have to be either on the soft or hard compound tyre, and I believe he is undoubtedly going to be on the hard compound tyre to the end of this race. So we are going to see the McLarens on full attack at the end of this race, I suspect, trying to overtake Max Verstappen on the hard compound tyre, aging hard compound tyres, but it will be on-track action nonetheless. So Max leads 14 seconds, nearly 15 seconds over Carlos Sainz, but the gap to Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris is the one that we're keen on, as Oscar Piastri is now within the DRS of Kimi Antonelli, and there are 3 more laps remaining until they all have to make a pit stop. Lap 32 is the interesting lap here. It does seem like no one is going to commit to that free stop strategy. Piastri, as we said, just getting that DRS of Kimi Antonelli. He is 4.1 seconds ahead of Lando Norris, and Lando Norris would not be winning the Drivers' World Championship here today if, as an example, the race ended as it currently is. Max Verstappen P1, Sainz second, Antonelli third with Piastri and Norris in 4th and 5th. Well, Norris would gain 10 points. Verstappen would gain 25. He would gain 15 points, and the gap would only be 10 points to Lando Norris from Max Verstappen heading into Abu Dhabi, and Oscar Piastri would only gain 2 points. So Max Verstappen would be then second place and would be the main title challenger heading into Abu Dhabi if the results were to finish as they are, and Oscar Piastri would only find himself 20 points behind rather than the 15 which he was looking for. So lots to play for still. Lots of different permutations still to be had here as Piastri is getting very close to Kimi Antonelli. Is he even going to take Kimi before they get down into turn one? He's going to go for it, as yes he does. Oscar Piastri, we have an on-track overtake, and Oscar Piastri gets ahead of Kimi Antonelli. Bold move for him down into turn one. He could have waited a couple of extra laps, but we know how important a couple of extra laps is going to be here in the whole grandstanding of this championship and the finish here today at the Qatar Grand Prix. He's now 1.8 seconds behind Carlos Sainz, and Lando Norris has caught up to the back of Kimi Antonelli as well. He's 2.3 seconds behind Kimi, and he finds himself about 4 seconds, just under 4 seconds behind his teammate Oscar Piastri. But they will be moving out of their way very quickly as we have only 2 more laps remaining until the majority of the field has to pit again. Oscar's got to get past Kimi and Carlos quickly. He's got past Kimi just there. So, yes, he's done that. And he now has his eyes set on Carlos Sainz. But he might not even need to overtake Carlos Sainz. He'll probably move out of his way, Carlos Sainz. Just as Piastri gets ahead of him. So, a comfortable overtake for Oscar Piastri there. If Max wins, you'll donate me €20. Well, I appreciate the €2 anyway, Pamf Man. Much appreciated. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. 25,000 viewers here. Hit that like and subscribe button. It'd be much appreciated. Trying to hit 70,000 subs. We just hit 68, so thank you, thank you, thank you. So, as we run up and down the field here, there is only one driver who's in the DRS of that ahead, and that is Lewis Hamilton on Alex Albon. But you can see Lando Norris is gaining on Kimi Antonelli there as Antonelli is starting to struggle on those old medium compound tyres. We have one more lap remaining until the drivers have to pit. Once they complete this lap, they'll be on 24 lap old mediums, and then of course 25 is the maximum. Otherwise, if they go beyond that, they will be disqualified from this race. Charles Leclerc reports, check every lap, George line into turn 10 entry. I'm sure he's out. Charles Leclerc snitching on George Russell there on track limits, who has yet to have a track limits violation. Someone who has 2 track limits violations, by the way, ladies and gents, is Lando Norris. Alex Albon has 3. He already has a black and white flag for track limits. Lando Norris has 2, and he now finds himself in the DRS of Kimi Antonelli. He, like his teammate just a couple of laps prior, will be looking to overtake. The McLarens will be pitting at latest lap 49. Probably onto the soft compound tyres on the attack of Max Verstappen, who will be pitting in one more lap time onto the hard compound tyre and will be going to the end of this race. We'll see the McLarens on the aggressive here in the closing stages of this race. It's really the only opportunity that Max has to win this race today is to stay out there on this, to go on an alternate strategy than the McLarens and try and beat them that way and hold on to track position. We'll see if he's going to be able to do it. We have 26 laps remaining of this race. We are on lap 32 now. So this is the lap where we will see the majority of the field come into the pits. Will Kimi Antonelli be overtaken by Lando Norris down into turn 1? No. Lando has to stay put for an extra lap, but Sainz and Antonelli will move out of the way of both McLarens at the end of this lap. Everyone, barring Lance Stroll and Esteban Ocon, will be pitting this lap when they come round the last corner, because Stroll pitted on a few laps ago onto the medium compound tyres, and Esteban Ocon was a couple of laps later after waiting for a penalty to come his way for a false start, which he has served. We've had a couple of 5-second time penalties already. Lance Stroll and Esteban Ocon. There was no further investigation for the collision between Nico Hulkenberg and Pierre Gasly, which took Nico Hulkenberg out of this race. We'll review that afterwards to see if the stewards made the correct decision there and have a look at the stewards report. Always fun to do, so remember to stay behind after the race ends to have a chit-chat. Maybe we are crowning a new world champion today. Maybe it is going on to the end of the season to Abu Dhabi in a week's time, as Max Verstappen at that 25 lap limit now heads into the pit lane. And well, we're about to see the majority of the field here, barring 4 cars, dive into the pit lane. Carlos Sainz, he also moves into the pit lane, or does he go out? No, he does indeed. Anyone who carries on here, who goes beyond the 25 lap limit, will be disqualified from this race, as Piastri now regains the lead of this race, and Lando Norris will be in P2 as Max Verstappen will find himself not that far behind both McLarens. He is now on the hard compound tyre to the end of this race. And, well, Max may lose a bit of ground to the McLarens in this stint, but he needs to think of the bigger picture, because he will gain the lead when the McLarens eventually make their second mandated pit stop. But how far behind will they be, and what tyre will they be on? I do suspect it will be the softs, and, well, they will be on full attack, and Max will defend as best as possible from Oscar Piastri and, of course, Lando Norris, because if he finishes one place behind Lando as he currently is, he will be mathematically out of the championship heading into Abu Dhabi. So, who has maybe made a slow pit stop here down into turn down there? And it seems like George Russell has lost another pit stop here. George Russell, because of the double stack with Kimi Antonelli, George Russell has lost another position here to those in the pit lane, and he's now down 5 places today. Lance Stroll is up 7 places now because of that early pit stop, but he is offset to everyone else. Who else has gained there? Lewis Hamilton has just lost a position there because of the double stack, and that's the problem with this mandated 2 pit stop. But those who had to double stack ended up losing positions. So George Russell, hang on. George Russell had contact, supposedly. George Russell had contact, but Esteban Ocon is now up 10 places. He is up into P6. Fernando Alonso is in P7. Isaac Hadjar is P8, with George Russell down in 9th now. Charles Leclerc is P10, where he started. Lance Stroll up 7 places in P11, offset on strategy. Lawson is P12, where he started. And Tsunoda is up 2 places in P13. We have those drivers who have made that second pit stop here, now on the hard to the end of this race. Pierre Gasly is on the mediums. He's going to have to go to the end of this race. And, well, the McLarens are going to be doing, no doubt, the medium soft. There has been Ollie Behrman noted for being released in an unsafe condition. Does Ollie Behrman not have a tyre on correctly? Not entirely sure what happens if Ollie Behrman has Ollie Behrman got a tyre not on correctly? I mean, he's okay at the moment. He's going round nicely, so I'm not entirely sure why his car is in an unsafe condition. Is he going back into the pit lane, Ollie Behrman? No, he continues on. So it seems to be that maybe that is okay. So watching the replay of George Russell, he had a bit of a slower pit stop, 3 seconds. And George had to slow down for Liam Lawson, who was making his way into the pits. And that is why Liam Lawson lost, that's why George Russell lost a position there. So yeah, because of the double stack and because of the slow pit stop, George Russell has lost 2 positions in both pit stops he's had to make, because Kimi Antonelli has found himself ahead of him, and he's been the second car. But Piastri leads 4.5 seconds ahead of Lando Norris in P2. Verstappen is 8 seconds behind Piastri, 3.4 seconds behind Lando Norris. He actually set a 24.845 last time, Max Verstappen, which was only a 10th slower than Lando Norris. Carlos Sainz is up 3 places into P4. What a result this could be for Carlos Sainz. Norris is told this is the bit of the race where we need to be quicker than Max. That is what Will Joseph has just reported to Lando, his engineer. This is the part of the race where we need to be quicker than Max. So let's see what the radio message will be in response to that to Max Verstappen, because normally there is something that is relayed to the Dutch driver as Esteban Ocon is now in the pits there. That's why we're seeing changes of position, and Esteban Ocon falling through the field as he made his pit stop a few laps later. Hang on. As Verstappen has been told that the front left looks more robust. So, because Pierre Gasly was on the hard compound tyre, they relayed to him that Pierre Gasly's front left looked not that bad, which means that the hard compound tyre should work quite nicely here. And Max will be able to lean on it a bit more than he was on the mediums. So that's interesting information for Max Verstappen. We'll keep an eye on his lap times. Yuki Tsunoda also noted for an unsafe release for Yuki. That's a shame for him. That's not his fault. If he's been noted for an unsafe release, that would be the pit crew. So Ollie Behrman still under investigation for an unsafe condition. I'm not entirely sure why he was unsafe. Normally that is because of a tyre that's not on correctly, but not really sure. As Norris says, I need more help then because I can't do it, as in relation to a throttle input through turn 7. So Lando Norris asking for extra assistance from the pit wall in relation. So he says, Lando, reminder on turn 7 throttle shape, you've gone back to what you were doing before. And Lando has said, I'm trying. Give me a bit of extra help then. So turn 7, not something that they're liking on Lando's throttle trace in relation to his input and the level of pressure he is applying. So why was Ollie Bearman releasing an unsafe condition? Still not sure what they were doing with Ollie Bearman. It's very odd circumstances around the Haas pit wall. So not entirely sure. We'll review that afterwards. But Ollie Bearman finds himself down in 18th position and fighting for position with his teammate Esteban Ocon. They still had... So Ollie Bearman was technically released with a tyre not on correctly. They had to re-race the car and make sure the tyre was on correctly. So that's why Ollie Bearman is being investigated there. But as we rejoin the on-track action with 37 laps of this race, we're on the 37th lap of 57. 21 laps remaining. Oscar Piastri leads 6 seconds over Lando Norris, with Verstappen 2.6 seconds further back in P3. It does look like, as it stands, Oscar Piastri is going to make this race, this championship, extend to Abu Dhabi. And well, I tell you what, even Max Verstappen could be extending this championship to Abu Dhabi, because he is going to inherit this race lead when the McLarens have to make that second mandated stop, and it will be full attack for the Red Bull, for the McLarens. And well, it looks like Max Verstappen is considerably quicker than Norris, as Norris is struggling here on this tyre. 25.7 last time around. With all the hoo-ha of the chat on the radio about his throttle input through turn 7, Lando Norris is starting to struggle out there. We'll see what his lap time is when he comes around next time. But Max Verstappen is gaining time on Lando Norris on this set of hard compound tyres. Those hard compound tyres have lit up here for Max Verstappen and the rest of the field, because Carlos Sainz has also done a 24.7, and Lando, as it stands, is 2.3 seconds only ahead of Max Verstappen. Check the car, as Lando Norris has reported, please check the car. So is there an issue? Has Lando maybe picked up damage to the underside of that car? A 24.9 for Lando, that's a bit more right in the ship for him. He's definitely off the pace of his teammate, and it looks like the championship is not going to be wrapped up here today unless something special happens with a red flag, a safety car, or whatever. But even then, Max Verstappen would gain the lead of this race under the safety car conditions, because they would still have to make another pit stop. But Max, 2.1 seconds behind, he is catching Lando Norris, and the McLarens have to weigh up their options here as to whether they decide to make another pit stop. They can make a pit stop now and go on to the hards to the end of the race, or do they try and last it out to the maximum 25 laps on this set of tyres and go on to the softs at the end with only 8 laps remaining. Lando Norris radio again. Oh my goodness, Lando Norris replay. Oh, that's why Lando had a moment. He went over the curb and he nearly lost the car. He lost a full second through turn 15. My goodness, he nearly did through turn 10, I think it was, on the exit of turn 9. Wow, Lando Norris nearly went round into a spin there. Big moment for Lando. Big moment. And he is... I think it was turn 10, one of the corners anyway. He went on the exit, and Lando, big moment and big save. That's why he lost time to Max Verstappen there. He is struggling here in relation to Verstappen, because he's also been told that he has quite high temperatures in that McLaren, and that he has to give up some speed in the high-speed corners. So temperatures are an issue in that McLaren. And, well, Lando Norris may just have to accept third place here today to ensure that he still has a sizable lead heading into Abu Dhabi in a couple of weeks' time. As it stands, if he was to finish P2, the gap would be... 7 points gained by Oscar Piastri. It would be 15 points heading into the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. But if Lando Norris was to finish in P3 and Oscar Piastri win this race, then he would have a gap of 12 points to Oscar Piastri. If Max Verstappen was to win this race, it would be a gap of 15 points from Max Verstappen to Lando Norris. So, he'll have a double-digit lead heading into Abu Dhabi. Lots of things can still happen here in this race. 1.9 seconds is the gap now, Max Verstappen to Lando. And I'll tell you what, the way it's going, Lando Norris is going to be overtaken by Max Verstappen out on track before he even makes a pit stop here, because a 24.9 last time around for Max Verstappen, as it was for Lando Norris. But Lando has 7-lap-old tyres than Max Verstappen, and he's on softer tyres as well that aren't going to last as long. Oscar Piastri, though, has been very supreme. He's been lapping half a second quicker than that of his teammate and Max Verstappen. And you can see there a 24.592 for Max Verstappen. He wasn't half a second quicker that time because Max was nearly 4 tenths quicker than Lando, and he has got that gap down to under 2 seconds. So we'll keep an eye on that battle as it's now. You can see the extra level of grip that Max has on Lando as Lando is having to manage the pace here in that McLaren. And, well, it looks like this championship is undoubtedly going to go to the end of this season to Abu Dhabi. 7.2 seconds is the gap to Piastri and Norris. 1.8 seconds, under 1.8 seconds now. Verstappen is gaining time hand over fist here through every single corner on Lando Norris. If you look at that, as wow, we have a 10-second. Oh my goodness, we don't see that often. A 10-second stop-go penalty for Ollie Behrman for being released in an unsafe condition. They do exist, ladies and gents. Those sorts of penalties do exist. We don't see him often, but wow. So Ollie Behrman released in an unsafe condition. His race is over and done with, if it wasn't already, as he now finds himself in 18th place behind his teammate. So Haas faring not very well here. Both Haas cars have received penalties today. Esteban Ocon, a 5-second time penalty for a false start, and Ollie Behrman now a 10-second stop-go penalty. That is more like a 50-second penalty. That is horrendous for Ollie Behrman. Right, back to the battle between Norris and Verstappen up front. And, well, Norris and Piastri still yet to make a second pit stop. They will do on lap 49. They have 9 laps remaining to do. They have 8 laps remaining to do so. Max Verstappen is less than 1.5 seconds behind Lando Norris now, and he's on the hard compound tyre going to the end of this race. He will gain the lead of this race from Oscar Piastri, and we will see probably more of a battle between Oscar Piastri and Max Verstappen than we will Lando Norris and Max, as Lando is having to manage somewhat those temperatures in that McLaren. He's already had a big moment through one of the corners, which no doubt would have unsettled him, and he definitely doesn't have the pace compared to his teammate here this weekend. It's a return to form for Oscar Piastri. The Piastri, but we have wondered where he has been for the last 8 races, and, well, is it too little too late for Oscar Piastri? Because a P3 here today and a P3 in Abu Dhabi in a week's time would still be enough for Lando Norris to secure the World Championship. Ooh, the McLaren curse just passed from Piastri to Norris. I don't think just yet, not just yet. So there we go, Ollie Behrman now making that 10-second stop-go penalty more like a 50-second penalty. That's what it's going to feel like for him. As, oh my goodness, who was that? Oscar Piastri just had a big moment through the exit of turn 5. So Oscar Piastri pushing like crazy right now. He went through the gravel through turn 5, and Oscar Piastri has had to... Oh, my goodness, Oscar Piastri. Careful, careful, careful. You don't want to cause damage to the bottom of your McLaren. I know you're pushing. So both McLarens having their moments here as Max Verstappen is nearly within the DRS of Lando Norris. As Ollie Behrman now leaves the pit lane after that 10-second stop-go penalty. And this is really where the battle is. Isaac Hadjar is ahead of George Russell, as George Russell is on the attack and could be getting Isaac Hadjar down into turn 1. It's been a poor race for George Russell. He now finds himself only 3 places behind. Charles Leclerc is in turn on the back of Fernando Alonso. But Verstappen is just biding his time here. He has the pace on Norris, as Norris is half a second off of Verstappen. And, well, this could be just a matter of fact of Lando just trying to secure this car, finishing here today at the end of the Qatar Grand Prix and ensuring he picks up those points, because he is having to manage out there. And Max is now within that 1 second as George Russell does get the move done on Isaac Hadjar. Or does he? Because they go side by side and Isaac Hadjar regains the position on George Russell. Some wheel-to-wheel action there for 6th place. George Russell not being able to keep it clean there between Isaac Hadjar, unlike Pierre Gasly and that of Nico Hulkenberg earlier on. So, how about Max Verstappen? Is he close enough? As, wow, Piastri pits early. Piastri pits early. So Piastri doesn't take it to the maximum 25 laps here. He's pitting 7 laps earlier. What tyre is he going to go on to? Undoubtedly, it's probably going to be the hard, or maybe it will be the soft. But Verstappen gets up close behind Lando Norris, as Lando Norris is now in the lead. If the race was to finish as it was, he would win the championship, but we know Norris has to make a second mandated pit stop. The only way really I see Lando Norris winning this race right now is if he is able to change his tyres under red flag conditions. So Oscar Piastri comes out onto the hard compound tyre, and well, he has 15 laps now to push and catch and overtake Max Verstappen. Can he do it? Can he do it? I'm not so sure he can. 17.5 seconds. He's been the quickest man here this weekend, but we have undoubtedly a race on here. Lando Norris, is he going to respond here and pit? I'd suspect he probably will, or maybe he will stay out there and just hope for a red flag. You never know, but I think Max, it's a matter of time until he overtakes him. This is the second lap. He'll be within the DRS. Is he going to go for a move out on track, or is he just going to wait for Lando Norris to move out of the way? Verstappen needs to get past Norris quick as possible, you suspect, with Oscar Piastri on full attack mode. He has 10 laps newer tyres than Max Verstappen. How important is that going to be? He's just done the fastest middle sector, half a second quicker, because Verstappen has been held up by Lando, and Lando is staying out there. He is staying out there, and he's going to hold Verstappen up for a bit longer. Will Verstappen be able to go for a move here down into turn one? He's going to go late on the brakes, but he's not close enough. He's still holding him up. And, bro, what is more preferable here for Lando Norris? A Max Verstappen win or an Oscar Piastri win? I think it's probably neither. Because if Oscar Piastri... it's either or, to be fair. I think they would both go in at 15 points, because if Lando Norris finishes in P3 and Verstappen wins, the gap would still be 15 points. So it doesn't really matter who wins this race from Lando Norris's perspective. But if Verstappen wins this race, he will be in P2 heading into Abu Dhabi, and Oscar Piastri would be P3 in the championship, but both of them would still have an opportunity to win the title. Oscar Piastri has just done 30.907 in the first sector. He's 16.7 seconds behind Max Verstappen now, and well, Max Verstappen is at least maybe going to be 7 more laps held up behind Lando Norris if Lando Norris has enough left in those medium compound tyres. What will Lando do? He's no doubt going to be keeping an eye out in his rearview mirrors with Max Verstappen, who will go for a late move. You know he will. It's in their best interests, Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri, if Lando Norris, of course, doesn't finish this race today. Not that I'm a conspiracy theorist, but of course, Max Verstappen knows that Lando Norris has more to lose. And there we go. Lando Norris pits there. Lap 45. We have 13 laps remaining. Lando Norris pits. Where will he come out? Will he even come out ahead of Carlos Sainz? I'm not sure he will. He could have to get a move done on Kimi Antonelli and Carlos Sainz here, and I think that's what Lando Norris will have to do, as Oscar Piastri has just set a 22.996, and well, in just a few laps, Oscar Piastri has gained, oh my goodness, he's gained about 3 seconds on Max Verstappen in just a couple of laps, but we know catching is one thing, overtaking is another. Max Verstappen has 15.5 second lead, and well, here we go. Wow, this has big permutations in the overall driver's standings. If Lando Norris is unable to overtake Kimi Antonelli, he would only gain 10 points here. Max Verstappen would gain 25, and it would be a 10-point gap heading into Abu Dhabi. Oscar Piastri would gain 8 points on Lando Norris if he was to finish second, and the gap would be 14 points. Wow, that is a big movement if Lando Norris is unable to overtake Kimi Antonelli and even Carlos Sainz. So Lando Norris has to get some overtakes done out on track here with 13 laps remaining. Max Verstappen is P1 with Oscar Piastri P2 looking to chase him down. Max Verstappen responded to Oscar Piastri last time around with a 30.7, the fastest first sector out of anyone. What is his lap time this time? It's a 23.515. We'll see what Oscar Piastri's lap time is when he crosses the start-finish line. But we are in for a brainstormer last 12 laps here. A blockbuster last 12 laps. While there may not be there's got to be overtakes out on track. We'll keep an eye on Lando Norris's gap to Kimi Antonelli and Carlos Sainz. 3.6 seconds is the gap from Lando Norris to Kimi Antonelli. 2.7 seconds is the gap to Carlos Sainz from Antonelli to Sainz. And last time around, Piastri was only 2 tenths quicker than Max Verstappen. He needs a considerable more amount of time than that. And McLaren may have missed a trick here. 10-second stop-go penalty has been served by Ollie Bearman from being released in an unsafe condition. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this race. By the way, hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already and get this stream to 70,000 subs. Much appreciated. PB for viewership. And, well, what a race you are tuning into. Max Verstappen, big movements in the overall championship. Max Verstappen, who here this weekend has been really in a subpar Red Bull in comparison to the McLarens. But Red Bull, as they so often are brilliant when it comes to strategy. And they have outfoxed McLaren today. And Oscar Piastri has 14.5 seconds to make up on Max Verstappen here, who has clean air ahead of him. He has no dirty air. And, well, with this 2-mandated pit stop today, Verstappen utilising the safety car that came early on in this race, right on time at lap 7. As science has said, I think Norris will struggle to pass Antonelli with the pace we're doing, as the hard compound tyre does seem to be faring much better than that of the medium compound tyre we've seen today. And as well as what we've seen on lower fuel here at this stage of the race, it's going to last longer. As you can see, Sainz does a 24.2 last time around, as Antonelli does a 24.1. But Norris does a 23.6, a fastest last sector. So there is still pace in that McLaren of Lando Norris. He can still overtake Antonelli and Carlos Sainz with 11 laps remaining. The gap up front to Verstappen and Piastri is 14.6 seconds, and that 10 tyre lap advantage that Oscar Piastri has on Verstappen doesn't look like it's going to be enough. 2.4 seconds is the gap to Sainz and Antonelli, as Norris now gets that gap to under 3 seconds to Kimi Antonelli. We'll see if he's going to be able to overtake him. As we move further down the field, Charles Leclerc is still being held up by Fernando Alonso in P8, and George Russell has been unable to gain on Isaac Hadjar. However, he also now has 3 track limits violations. Russell, 1 more, and he will get a 5-second time penalty. Black and white flag has been shown to George. Further down the grid, Yuki is up 3 places into P12, with Hamilton up 3 places into 14. We have Borsaletto up 4 places into 15th, and Colapinto as well. But as we move further, Ali Behrman has been confirmed as a retirement there of this race. But as we move back up to the top, that's where we're focused on this championship. It is undoubtedly still going to the end of the season, the last race of the season, as Lando Norris finds himself in P5 with Oscar Piastri in P2 and Max Verstappen in P1. Max Verstappen, who should undoubtedly be out of this championship, but as he said himself, has been allowed back into this championship through the failures of others, and I have to agree, because Max could be winning his 6th, 7th race this season, equal with the McLarens, and he will only be 10 points behind Norris heading into Abu Dhabi if Norris is unable to overtake Kimi Antonelli and, of course, Carlos Sainz in P3. He is catching Carlos Sainz and Kimi Antonelli. 2 seconds is the gap now to Antonelli. A 24.1 last time around to Norris's 23.1. He gained a full second that last lap, but we know catching is one thing, overtaking is another here at Qatar, and just in F1 in general, with the last year of these regulations that we have. Bring on 2026, but Qatar, while it's not necessarily the greatest track for overtaking, at least we've had intrigue here today, thanks to the Pirelli strategy of the mandated 2-tyre pit stop, and of course a safety car at the perfect opportunity. Get your tinfoil hats on, guys, with Nico Hulkenberg and Pierre Gasly's crash, but it was most definitely a safety car. But Max Verstappen and the rest of the field have utilised it perfectly, and McLaren stayed out because they wanted flexibility, but it looks like it's backfiring on them. Charles Leclerc still within the DRS of Fernando Alonso. Lando Norris, though, all eyes on him. 1.4 seconds is the gap to Kimi Antonelli. He is gaining time hand over fist here. He has 13-lap-old fresher tyres than that of Kimi Antonelli, and he is probably only a matter of time until he catches him. He has plenty of laps remaining, as we have 9 laps remaining here at the LaSalle circuit. Oh. Hope you guys are enjoying the stream. If you are, hit that like and subscribe button. Much appreciated. 32,000 of you here today. Very, very well done. We'll be back, of course, for Abu Dhabi, and we'll be chatting everything that has happened on in this race today. Verstappen leads 13.2 seconds to Oscar Piastri. Oscar Piastri is not going to have enough. He was 7/8 tenths quicker than Verstappen last time around, and unless Max Verstappen has an issue with his car, causes some damage to the underside of that Red Bull, I don't suspect Oscar Piastri is going to catch. And of course, Oscar Piastri needs to be careful himself. He's already had an excursion to the gravel trap and potentially cause himself some damage to the underside of his McLaren pushing earlier on in this race, and we know how easy it is to just drop a wheel here. But Lando Norris is now within the DRS of Kimi Antonelli. He's under a second there. You can see the interval time is highlighted. He is going to have an opportunity maybe before this lap, not before this lap finishes, but next time around into turn 1, as he makes his way through the last sector, where you need that extra level of grip, where the dirty air is at its most, where you need to stay close through turn 15 and turn 16, and you can see the time that he's gaining through those corners. Is he going to have an opportunity here? You can see he actually gains on Kimi through turn 16 because of the extra front grip that he has. But is he close enough? He's 6 tenths back. He's going to have DRS open. He doesn't necessarily have to make this move because he still will have a 10-point lead as it stands heading into Abu Dhabi, and he's just too far back to make a lunge on Antonelli right now. He needs to be calculated, of course. The last thing he wants to do is relinquish this championship lead heading into Abu Dhabi. But who would have thought today, with everything that has happened, with the pace that the McLarens have had, that they would not be winning this race and that Lando would find himself down in P5. He's had some issues with the car that he's had to manage today with temperatures, and he needs to dispatch Kimi Antonelli quickly. Liam Lance Stroll is making a pit stop as he's reached the 25 tyre limit. He is going to drop down to the back of the field, but he will be a quick boy in the closing stages of this race with just 7 laps remaining when Max Verstappen crosses the start-finish line as he rounds the last corner now. Oscar Piastri has a 12.7 second gap to Max Verstappen. Carlos Sainz is in P3. He's 9.8 seconds back. The front two don't have to worry about them as Max Verstappen sets the fastest lap of his race at 23.498. But it's not going to be as quick as Oscar Piastri. With those 10 lap fresher tyres, he is going quicker, but only just a 23.2, only 2 tenths. It's not going to be enough for Piastri today. The man who has been quickest here comprehensively this weekend, but it's not all about being quickest. It's a team effort, as we know, and the strategy has let them down. Lando Norris has an opportunity, an overtake on Kimi again. DRS open. He needs to get the move done sooner rather than later because he's going to lose that tyre advantage he has on Kimi Antonelli, and well, he still doesn't just have enough. If it finishes as it is, Max Verstappen would gain 25 points. There would only be 10 points. Yes, you heard that correctly. Max Verstappen, who needed to finish ahead of Lando Norris today, because if Norris finished 1 place ahead of him, he would be outside of the championship mathematically, is now going to be P2 if Norris is unable to get past Kimi Antonelli, and would be 10 points, just 10 points heading into Abu Dhabi. Oscar Piastri would only be gaining 8 points on Norris, and that gap would be 14 points. But pressure, lots of pressure on in the last race of the season in Abu Dhabi, and it looks like the championship is undoubtedly going to head that way. Lando Norris, he's 7 tenths behind. We'll stay on board with Lando Norris, who is still in P5, down 3 places from where he started today. And McLaren have undoubtedly dropped the ball here. The only team not to make that pit stop when the safety car came out. They've missed a trick. Lando Norris, can he stay close? He's gaining here on Kimi Antonelli. It looks like Kimi Antonelli maybe went a bit wide through turn 14. And Norris is closer than he ever has been. He's 4 tenths behind Kimi. Can he stay that close out of turn 16? He loses a couple of important tenths there. 6 tenths is the gap through turn 16. And he's actually lost time, Lando, through the exit of turn 16. And he's starting to feel the dirty air off of that Mercedes as Kimi Antonelli is doing wondrous works for Max Verstappen here and Oscar Piastri as well. Lando Norris has 6 laps remaining to try and overtake the young Italian, who is on a great run of form at the moment. At the closing stages of this season, he has really become at one with that Mercedes. He has outperformed Russell here this weekend as Russell is down 3. Well, today, he's outperformed Russell today, not necessarily this weekend, because Russell did have a good sprint race. As a confirmation there of Lance Stroll has confirmed that 5-second time penalty that he served, as we have only 6 laps remaining, 5 laps remaining shortly, as Max Verstappen has 12.5 seconds ahead of Oscar Piastri. Max Verstappen is a shoe-in to win this race today and take the maximum 25 points. Oscar Piastri too far back. He needs a safety car of some sort to be able to overtake today, as Lando Norris has actually now just lost the DRS of Kimi Antonelli. He's now regained it, Lando Norris. And also, how are those temperatures in that McLaren right now? As Sainz has been reported potential damage on the wing. The front wing is okay, is what they've reported. But Norris gains that time back again through turn 15 and 16. That's where Kimi doesn't have the pace, but he does have it where he's got enough clean air through turn 16. And Lando isn't going to have an opportunity here, I think, on pace alone. He needs to force Antonelli into a mistake, but he will still have a 10-point lead heading into Abu Dhabi. So he needs to be calculated. If he did finish in P4, he would gain an extra 2 points and have 12-point lead heading into that of Abu Dhabi. But let's see how they fare. P5 isn't good enough next week for Lando Norris. He could still lose the championship if he was to not finish on the front row. But he is 8 tenths behind Kimi Antonelli still. Piastri still gaining time on Max Verstappen, but Max Verstappen is cruising right now. He doesn't have to stress. He needs to just bring that Red Bull car home, as 12 seconds is not going to be caught in just 4 laps when they cross the finish line. And what a race this has been. Kimi Antonelli 1.8 seconds behind Carlos Sainz. He doesn't want to catch Carlos Sainz right now, Kimi Antonelli. Or maybe he just wants to stay in this window where he's getting the benefit of a slim slipstream. But he doesn't want to get too close because he'll start to suffer from that dirty air. But this is where Lando Norris closes through turn 12, through turn 13, through the fast 14th, through the very quick left-hander at turn 13. But then turn 16 is where he loses all that front grip. Is he going to have enough here? He needs Kimi Antonelli to run a bit wide. That gap, 6.2 tenths, and it jumps out. He loses easily 1.5 tenths every single time on the exit of turn 16. And, well, Kimi Antonelli is catching Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz, who has complained maybe about damage to the front wing of his car, is losing time hand over fist here. And it could be a battle, Sainz, Antonelli and Norris with 4 laps remaining. Wow. Look at that gap, 1.5 seconds. It's now 1.4. And Carlos Sainz is really starting to struggle here. But will Lando Norris want this? Will he want the opportunity to overtake Antonelli? Will he want the opportunity of maybe carnage ahead of him? He is about to find out as we have 3 laps remaining with Max Verstappen, who is just overtaken Pierre Gasly there, has just lapped him. Oscar Piastri, the gap to him is 11 seconds. He's the quicker man, Oscar Piastri, but Max does not have to worry one little bit. Is Antonelli going to be able to catch Carlos Sainz? He's just done the fastest first sector for himself today, where Carlos Sainz did a 31.3. Lando Norris did a 31.0. So he gained 4 tenths this lap alone as Lando Norris loses time through the exit of turn 10. He's lost the DRS. Remember that pink dot on your screen is the DRS detection zone. That is where they need to be within 1 second of the driver ahead to gain DRS, which Lando Norris is as he makes his way through turn 15. What is the gap to Kimi Antonelli and Carlos Sainz? How much performance has Carlos Sainz lost with some potential front wing damage? We have seen damage to lots of the underside of the Formula 1 cars here this weekend, as Kimi Antonelli is undoubtedly going to be getting more dirty air thrown off from Carlos Sainz ahead. And you can see, while he's not got the DRS open, he is gaining in that slipstream, Kimi Antonelli, on Carlos Sainz. And it was this first sector where he gained last time around as well, as Norris is still around half a second back of Kimi Antonelli down into the braking zone of turn 1. We have only 3 laps remaining, or 2 laps remaining after this one, as Max Verstappen has just now got past Esteban Ocon, another car that has been lapped today, as Piastri also gets past Lance Stroll and is 10.6 seconds behind. McLaren undoubtedly have fumbled the strategy here today by not pitting, the only team not to pit under the safety car when it came out earlier on because of the collision between Nico Hülkenberg and Pierre Gasly. It was the perfect opportunity to do so, and they decided against it, and that has allowed Max Verstappen to win this race today when he has only 2 laps remaining. Kimi Antonelli, 1.3 seconds behind Carlos Sainz now. Not able to gain just as much as we thought, as George Russell has got past Isaac Hadjar, as Isaac Hadjar might have an issue here. Isaac Hadjar has just lost 2 positions in quick succession from George Russell and Fernando Alonso, as Isaac Hadjar does have an issue, as he's now lost a position to Charles Leclerc. Not entirely sure. Could we see a late safety car here? Hopefully not, because it would mean that the race would end under safety car. But Isaac Hadjar definitely has an issue. He's losing positions. Real shame to the end of the race here for Isaac Hadjar. Is he going to stop this car out on track? We'll see. As Lando Norris is a lot closer to Kimi than he has been before, as he's experiencing the dirty air. He is 1.1 seconds behind Carlos Sainz as we are on the penultimate lap of this race. Will Norris be able to get one more position here? We will see. As it's noted, there has been slippery in Sector 1 and Sector 2 as Isaac Hadjar is trudging his way back to the pit lane. Hopefully he's staying well out of the way here. I'm surprised there are no yellow flags as he has a puncture. Isaac Hadjar has a puncture on the left rear, I think, or the suspension has been broken, so he's able to move, Isaac Hadjar, and will make his way back to the pit lane as Max Verstappen has just got past him. It's a real shame for Isaac Hadjar. Not entirely sure if that was due to a curb strike or collision with George Russell, but that's promoted George Russell back up to P6, but no one cares about that at the moment. It's all eyes at the front as Max Verstappen is coming round the last corner and is on the last lap of this race here at the Qatar Grand Prix. He has just 16 more corners as Kimi Antonelli has just gone wide and has relinquished the position to Lando Norris, and Antonelli has just gone and made a mistake. We said it would need a mistake from Kimi Antonelli, and that's just what has happened. Kimi Antonelli getting in the dirty air of Carlos Sainz, ran wide, and Norris has got up to P4 and gains 2 extra points on Max Verstappen. As Norris, can he maybe dispatch Carlos Sainz, who has issues in the last laps of this race, as Kimi Antonelli did run a little bit wide there and allowed Lando Norris through. So how important could those 2 extra points be for Lando Norris on Kimi Antonelli? Just watching the replay to see if he did indeed run wide, Kimi Antonelli. I think he did indeed. Yes, Kimi did run wide, and that's why he gave the position to Lando Norris. But Max Verstappen has only 6 more corners to contend with, but Lando Norris is all over the rear of Carlos Sainz, but he's not going to have an opportunity of the slipstream down into the turn 1. You would suspect with the pace that he has on Carlos Sainz, who is running with damage on the Williams, he would be able to overtake him. But will he have enough to get past Sainz? And will Sainz secure his 2nd podium here this season? Considering Alex Albon has been the better Williams driver for the majority of it, Carlos Sainz is undoubtedly ending the season much stronger. What a drive this will be, and what a brilliant strategy it will be for them. But Max Verstappen wins the Qatar Grand Prix. Max Verstappen wins the Qatar Grand Prix, and championship is still on. Oscar Piastri comes across in P2, but it's still all eyes on Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris. As Carlos Sainz comes around the last corner, barring a trip to the gravel, he is going to secure a podium here. And yes, Carlos Sainz finishes P3, Lando Norris in P4, and well, we still have race on here as George Russell is going to make his way across the finish line in P6. We have Fernando Alonso in P7, Charles Leclerc in P8, Liam Lawson is in P9, Alex Albon is in P11, Lewis Hamilton is in P12, but Max Verstappen, he is your winner of the Qatar Grand Prix. And well, championship still on. It goes to Abu Dhabi. It goes to Abu Dhabi. Let's have a look at the championship standings. What has that done? Well. Lando Norris, 408 to Max Verstappen's 396. 12 points is the gap to Lando Norris and Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen, who had to basically, if he was winning, if he didn't win this race today, if he finished 1 place behind Lando Norris today, he would have been out of this championship. Well, he's won the damn thing. He's won the damn race. He's got the maximum 25 points. He is now 2nd in the championship. Oscar Piastri, well, he is 16 points behind. 16 points behind Lando Norris. Max Verstappen is 12 points. Championship on. Here we go, Abu Dhabi. Woo-hoo-hoo. Guys, thank you very much for tuning in. By the way, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button. We are nearly at 70,000 subscribers. It'd be absolutely amazing if we could achieve that before this stream ends. We'll be back, of course, for Abu Dhabi next week because it's going to the wire. Max can still win. Max can still win his 5th. Max can still win his 5th. Let's have some more fireworks. Let's have some more fireworks. There we go. Brilliant strategy from Red Bull. Brilliant strategy from them. Wow. Brilliant strategy. How is this even possible? Absolute bottle job from McLaren. Indeed from McLaren. It's definitely going to have to be reviewed, of course. Definitely going to have to be reviewed. But Kimi, how important will that 2 points be? How important will that 2 points be? Let's run a poll. Let's have a look. Yep, Karun has just explained it correctly there. They've allowed Max Verstappen to stay ahead by not splitting the strategies. And well, driver of the day. Who's your driver of the day? Carlos Sainz, by the way. Unbelievable. I have a feeling who's going to be your driver of the day. But let's do that. Who else could we give driver of the day to? Yuki got P10. Woo, Yuki. Well done, Yuki. He got a P10. Up 5 positions. Well done. Lewis Hamilton up to P12. Lance Stroll retired. Hadjar retired. So with that late retirement there, I think those 3 are your drivers of the day, maybe options, but I can see who is going to be driver of the day undoubtedly here. Undoubtedly. But wow. If Max wins Abu Dhabi, would Lando have to finish 4th or worse for Max to clinch the championship? Yes. So, let's have a look at the permutations. If Lando finishes in the top 3, if he finishes on the podium in Abu Dhabi, he wins the championship. If he finishes 4th and Max wins, let's have a look. I can have a look. How many wins is that now for Max? How many wins? That's a lot of wins for Max Verstappen now. Of course, countback could be a factor here. It could be a factor. So Max Verstappen has now won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Max Verstappen has won 6 times. How? How has he won 6 times when McLaren have had this car? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Lando has 7 race wins. And Oscar Piastri has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 race wins as well. So he is... So it would... I mean, I don't know what the countback would be. Because if he wins 7... They've both... If he wins in Abu Dhabi, he's got 7 race wins. And Norris would obviously finish... If that's Norris, finishes 4th. But Norris needs the top 3. But... not entirely sure what that strategy was from the McLaren team, guys. Not entirely sure what that strategy was. Unbelievable there. So yeah. But that 25 lap pit stop, mandatory pit stop, was the reason, not the sole reason, but it screwed McLaren over because McLaren potentially probably could have taken the hard compound tyre a lot longer, and they probably could have done a 1-stop here today. But that's the nature. You have to deal with what you've got in front of you. So a top 3 should be doable pretty easily for Lando next week. Yeah, well, we see. We don't know. So what are the McLaren's hoping not to pit because of double stack? It backfires, and now Norris is under pressure. But time, Oscar can help Max. I hope he does. I mean, imagine. I mean, look, I don't want to take anything away from Max and Red Bull because they utilised the strategy perfectly. It was the only way they were going to win this race today because they were not the quickest car. But sometimes you don't need the quickest car. You need to be the best, well-operated team. And that's what Red Bull were today. And it's the 2nd race weekend in a row where McLaren have fumbled the ball. They've fumbled it. And Max is now closer than ever of winning this championship. Unsurprisingly, your driver of the day is Max Verstappen. Carlos Sainz is 29% of your vote. Yuki Tsunoda got 2%. Hats off to you Yuki fans out there. But yes, realistically, driver of the day, I don't know how Sainz even got P3. I'm not taking anything away from Max, but I actually think Sainz in P3 is driver of the day. He's up 4 positions. Did he get moves done out on track? I don't know. But yeah. You have to respect McLaren is very fair to its drivers. Well, so their strategy option was to keep the options open. It was to keep it open. So, was she in the back? Was she? Oh, QWERTY, thank you for the $10, by the way. I did miss that. Thank you, buddy. Much appreciated. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Of course, we're going to stick around and just see what everyone's got to say. Oscar looks so, dejected. Oh, McLaren have said no interviews until after the podium. Oh, McLaren. Oh, they're sucking eggs. McLaren are sucking eggs. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. McLaren sucking eggs. I mean, they only got themselves to blame, haven't they? They've only got themselves to blame. They should be out. They should be done and dusted by now. They should be done and dusted, but they're not. So, Max has 7 wins. Does he? Hang on. The missus just... Let me have a look. Maybe that's not been included. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, 7 wins, including today. Yep. So that's why I was counting. It only goes up to Las Vegas. That's why. Apologies. I'm sorry. But, I mean, look, no one expected Max to win this weekend. I did wonder how the strategy would play out today, but wow. I mean, yeah. I don't know why you don't. I mean, Norris was right, you know. Norris was like, why did I not follow, like, Verstappen in? Why did they not at least split the strategy? Like, they had obviously the perfect scenario here, McLaren, to go, okay, we've got one driver who's out up front, the leader. We'll maintain track position, but let's bring Lando in and match Max. Let's do that maths. Let's match Max. And they were the only team. They were the only team. So I did say Max and RB is fast here in Qatar. Well, they weren't actually that fast. Piastri was clearly the quickest driver here this weekend. Norris had the pace on Max as well. Of course, the middle stint he had to manage. But you don't need the quickest car. You don't always need the quickest car to win, because as Max, that honestly, if Max wins his championship, which he very well could do in Abu Dhabi, obviously it will go down as obviously one of the greatest championships, arguably one of his greatest. But his quote, his interview at the start of this week will just be forever etched on, like, in history. I am in this championship because of the failure of others. Basically, the failure of McLaren. And look, credit to Max and Red Bull, because that you need to still get the job done out on track, do the best that you can with the machinery and the tools that you have at your disposal. That's exactly what Max has done this year, exactly what Red Bull have done. And McLaren should be well off into the distance. Even with two drivers, even with two teammates who have been fighting out for the championship, they should still be... Max should have been mathematically out of this championship races ago. Yet here we are. And he's 12 points. 12. He's literally a race win and Lando finishing 4th. Because he'd win on countback. That is unbelievable. And by the way, and there's now, all McLaren have done is put more pressure on Lando and Oscar. They've just put more pressure on their drivers. Watching the replay of Kimi of exactly what happened. Oh, Kimi. He had oversteer. He had a snap of oversteer through turn 10, which has allowed Lando to get through. It was a good save by Kimi. But Max is just going about his business. Red Bull put him in a position there to win. He didn't have to... He overtook Lando at the start of the race, and then he just drove into clean air. Like... If Max wins next week, Lando needs at minimum... Yeah, I mean, Lando needs a podium regardless next week to win the championship. So, I mean, he could, to be fair. Obviously, Lando... The best thing for Lando next week is win the race. Win the race. He won at Abu Dhabi last year. He can win again. But, I mean, anything can happen. Anything. I mean, he had to manage somewhat in that middle stint with temps going up through the roof. So, yeah, never say never. Will I be doing iRacing anytime soon? After the season finishes, I will be, yeah. If you do not need the quickest, then with a consistent car, Lewis and Charles could have won this year, so the car is not good at all. The Ferrari is most definitely not. I mean, look, I think the shirt worked. Charles finished 8th, and Lewis gained 5 position in P12. I expected a lot worse. So the Ferrari worked. Next week is going to be spicy. Oh. Can I just say, by the way, guys, I just want to thank you all. What a season this has been. The channel has grown massively. We are approaching 70,000 subscribers. We have now confirmed today doubled our follower count from the start of the year. So big thank you. And we hit a PB today of 38,000 viewers. 38. We were just shy. Sorry, 39. We were just shy of 40,000 viewers. That is a football stadium that we just had watching us there today. And I imagine next week we are going to smash that as well. So I just want to say a big thank you to everyone. What a season it has been. And bring on next week and bring on 2026. So yeah, thank you everyone. Hope you are enjoying the live streams. Of course, we'll stick around. I am on the Missed Apex podcast this evening, guys, as well. For the first time in a long time, I'm on the Missed Apex podcast, and what a race to be on. So, oh, did you really, Mike? Thanks, mate. Thanks. But yeah, big thank you. What are the chances for Piastri? What do I think he's going to be top 3 in the Drivers' Championship after Abu Dhabi? Well, look, everyone's going to be doing all their calculations on what can happen. Piastri, if he wins the race, so he's 16 points behind. So he needs to win the race, Oscar, and for Lando to finish 6th. So it's a lot harder for Piastri. Max needs to win the race and for Lando to finish 4th. Because he'd win on countback. But if Lando finishes, it's still within Lando's control. If he finishes on the podium, he will win the championship. But, I mean, talk about pressure now. There's more pressure than there's ever been. More pressure than there's ever been. So, if Max wins his championship, then you've got to play his song. I would get copyrighted, so I won't do that. However, I have had a bet with someone that if I said at the start of the season he wouldn't win the championship. And if he does win the championship, then I have to wear a Red Bull hat. So, but Willie, what a drive from Carlos Sainz. So Carlos Sainz has now moved up to P9 in the Drivers' Championship, by the way. He's now moved up to the Drivers' Championship. Hang on a second. Oh, do I have a Red Bull hat? No, I'll have to go and buy one. Thanks, Bad Mojo. Much appreciated. Was the safety car engineer to help manufacture another? No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was just perfect timing. It was just perfect timing, because that was like perfect for all the. That's why everyone made the pit stop when they did. Everyone made that pit stop when they did, except McLaren. And I think what they didn't expect. I think McLaren probably expected the hard compound tyre to fall off more than it did, because the degradation is really high here. But there wasn't enough laps to do it. There wasn't enough laps to do it. So. Someone donated, but if Max wins, he'd donate 20 quid. Yeah, I don't know where he's gone. But no, appreciate it. Thank you. McLaren, honestly, it will go down in history as one of the biggest balls ups ever. I know people who are not Max Verstappen fans by any means, and they are saying, they are literally going, I want Max to win, because McLaren have just, they don't deserve to win. So... no sprint race next week. No sprint race next week. Well, people jump straight off when the race finishes, Pi. It's okay. In 2021, I wasn't a huge Max fan, but this season I've welcomed his maturity, natural speed, and making the championship more interesting. Yeah, I mean, and thank God for him, really, I guess, because without him, this championship could have been very boring. Lando, it would have been just between Norris and Piastri, and he's mixed it up, so... no, the race wasn't good. No, Pi, no. So, I had low expectations. And look, it was, thank God for the strategy, because it was the only thing that kept us intrigued there. Without that, it would have been a very, very boring race. And I mean, in the race in itself was boring. There was probably a handful of... there was only just a couple of overtakes out there. So, yeah, the strategy and McLaren's fumble made it exciting for us. So, thank God for that at the end of the day. Qatar 2025 was more exciting than Sao Paulo. Kimi and George should take Lando out next race and it's over. No. Look, I want it to be done out on track. I want the best driver to win it. And we're going to see it in Abu Dhabi again. And the best team. And clearly, McLaren... I mean, look, Jesus. Like, I think they've been right this year to not favour any driver. I think as fans, we want to see that. We don't want any driver to be favoured. We want them to have equal opportunity to do it. And they've given them that throughout this season. But what they have done is that they have not ensured that either of those drivers have had the best opportunity to win this year when they should have. They fumbled Las Vegas. Right, so let's say the Vegas DQ didn't happen last week, right? And we've got the results here now. So that's... 15-point advantage that Verstappen's just gained over Lando Norris. 13-point advantage. So that gap should now, it's all with some buts, of course, but if they didn't get DQ'd, that gap now, Mass is correct. That would be, he would have had a 31-point lead over 31. No, he would have had, what would he have had? He gained 25 points there, didn't he? So he would have had... Like, Max would mathematically not be in the championship next week. If they didn't DQ last week, even with this result, Max would not be in the championship next week, mathematically. So that's what's happened here. In the last 2 races, McLaren have cost Lando. Like, genuinely. And Oscar as well. So they're the ones to blame, not the drivers right now. How many points did he throw away punting Russell? 10. But the thing is, I don't want to look back at the rest of this. There have been multiple instances throughout this season where drivers have made mistakes. That is where obviously a 24 race season happens. Drivers are going to make mistakes, but McLaren have made massive fumbles this year. The drivers have themselves, but they got themselves into a position where they both should have seen it through to the end. But the last 2 race weekends, Lando has done what he needs to do, I think. Like, he hasn't... Right, I don't care if you're a Lando fan or not, right? If you look at it, Lando finished P2 in Vegas when the car wasn't that quick. I mean, they've always struggled there. Yes, he finished P2, arguably you could say, because of the legal car, but regardless, his performance out on track was good. Here, again, okay, not quite the quickest driver, but his performance here today is good enough. Was always going to get a slow start on the inside because of the dirty line, and he was doing enough. He should have minimum finished on the podium today, and McLaren have just fumbled it for him in the last 2 races. So I think the blame lies solely at both of them. So, yeah, crazy. Absolutely crazy. But that's F1 for you, eh? Oh, why can't I find the live stream? They don't allow it. Fair enough. What do I think about the Constructors' Championship now that Ferrari is out of the fight? I don't care about the Constructors. I really don't care about it. So, McLaren bottled it real bad, prioritising Lando over... The World Drivership was legit in their hands. Yeah, we'll see me on Missed Apex. Piastri drove perfectly. McLaren really fumbled his comeback. 100%. 100%. I really hope there are no team orders next weekend. No, I don't think there will be. I don't think there will be. Right, I'm going to link a thing in the chat, guys. This is the podcast that I'm on later. Let's just bring it up for you. Missed Apex. Of course, if you're still yet to hit the subscribe button, guys, please do. It'd be much appreciated. That's how a season should end. Anything but silly season in 2025. Personally tend not to watch if someone is way ahead. No, exactly. We want it. I said myself, I was backing Oscar Piastri. I didn't think Verstappen had a chance of winning this. But here we are again. But I wanted the season to go down to the last race of the year because it just deserves it. And selfishly for viewership as well. But Abu Dhabi is such a boring race. You want this level of intrigue and drama heading into Abu Dhabi, right? That's what we always want. So. Jarvis, you absolute legend. Much appreciated, mate. Much appreciated. 10 gifted again. Top man. Do I have any more to gift? I don't know if I do. Hang on. Oh, no, I don't. No, I don't. Much appreciated. We haven't had a freeway battle since 2010 when it was 4, and before that, 1986. I think, no, 2008, didn't we? We had one. 2008. Or, no, 2007, sorry. Do I think Red Bull will be good in Abu Dhabi? I actually don't know. I think they're going to be the slower car compared to the McLarens. But McLaren are fumbling it. So anything's possible. Anything is possible. So, yes, I think Abu Dhabi, McLaren are going to be the quickest car. And I think Red Bull is going to be the second quickest. But don't rule out McLaren effing it up again. That's it, really, isn't it? Like, it's just not much more else to say than that. Like, it's just, It is... If Lando or... I generally would feel sorry. While obviously it'd be great to see Max win a 5th or whatever, but... And well deserved. I genuinely feel so sorry for Oscar and Lando if they don't win either of them don't win a championship, because I think McLaren are just absolutely ballsing this up. And it just shows that if there is a tight championship in the future, I don't think McLaren are suited to win. I think they'd come out second best every time. They are clearly not as well operated as Red Bull and other teams on the grid. I think they would get out strategized by Red Bull any day of the week if Max had a realistically a competitive car week in, week out against them. And I think Mercedes would out strategize them. Ferrari, I mean, I'm actually going to say this is Ferrari levels of balls up today. This is Ferrari levels of balls up with that strategy. To not split them, to at least Lando. Like, Lando was behind Verstappen. Why did they not split the strategy and bring him in as Verstappen did? Because then you've at least covered off Verstappen. And you're like, okay, well, also, our driver's champion still has an opportunity of at least, like, finishing on the podium and not giving up positions. So, why do McLaren trust Pirelli deg rates more than their own data? I know. So, hats off to Max. I can't say I'm a fan, but he earned the championship by taking advantage of Piastri not botching it. He is a solid, consistent racer at his peak. Yeah, agreed. Unbelievable. Well, guys. What a race, eh? What a race. Let's just have a look at that championship one more time. And, well, Lando Norris, 408 points. 12 points he gained there. And Max Verstappen, 25. Max is now second in the championship. It looked like a shoo-in that Piastri was going to be the one challenging Norris into Abu Dhabi. But no, he is now only 12 points behind Norris. How important could those 2 points be that he just gained on Antonelli there in the last couple of laps? But it is still within Lando's control. A podium finish in Abu Dhabi will secure him the Drivers' World Championship. Max Verstappen needs to really win, and for Lando Norris to finish P4 like he did today, and he would win on countback because he would have 8 race wins. Max Verstappen, this is how crazy this is. Max has 7 race wins this year. The same as Oscar and Lando. How is that possible? How? Crazy. Yeah, I mean, they're just saying that it was their decision. Nothing brand new from Anstras that I'm reporting right now. How can Verstappen win the championship? Other than what I just mentioned, I don't know the other permutations with the quick maths off my head. But yeah, he basically needs to win, Max. If he finishes second or third, he's asking too much of Norris to finish outside. So put it this way, he needs 12-point advantage. So if he finishes second, Max, he'd gain 18 points, and he'd need Lando to finish P. So who finished? What's the 12-point gap there? So he'd need. So Lawson finished 9th and gained. So 12 points. So he'd need Lando to score no more than. So 18. 6. So Fernando Alonso 7th. So he'd need. If he finishes second, he'd need Lando to finish at 7th, I think, regardless of countback. Leclerc got 4 points by finishing 8th. If he finishes third, he needs him to finish 8th. So you're asking Lando to finish in like towards the bottom 10 if he finishes second. So a win is a must, really, for Max. So if Abu Dhabi ends the same as this race, Max wins. Yes, because he'd win on countback. They'd be on equal points, and Max would win on countback. So Oscar might have to let Lando through later in the race next week. Well, it would be absolutely... Oscar fans would be furious because Zach Brown did say only a few weeks ago that I'd rather see Max win than give team orders. And Oscar is still mathematically in with a chance of winning the race. It's a lot more tougher for him to do so, but he's still only 16 points behind. So to ask him to move over, I don't think that's going to happen. So can he win the championship? Yeah, he definitely can. He definitely can. I'm not so sure, but I think it needs, though, a big fumble by McLaren for Lando to not win this championship, though, again, like today. And I am not putting it past them to do it again, whether that be a really slow pit stop, something of the likes. We could see a race next weekend that is as dramatic as, say, the ending in 2007 with Lewis Hamilton finishing. He only needed, like, what, a top 5 to win the championship, and he only did that in, like, the last corner of the race. It could be something as dramatic as that next weekend. So, yeah. But be sure to tune in, of course, to it. We will be here. Well, unfortunately, I do apologise. Hang on. I do apologise, but I will not be doing FP1 next week because I have a meeting at work, which is an important meeting that I need to be a part of. But I will be here for FP2, FP3, qualifying, and the race on Sunday, of course. There's no way I'm missing that. So FP1, unfortunately, will be missing, but I will be here for FP2. So he might have to if last few laps, mate. That would be malpractice if they don't do team orders if required. I know. Well, I don't know. That's what I mean. I mean, the sponsors, I also think, wouldn't be too happy about it. Well, obviously they care about the constructors, but the sponsors also want a drivers' world champion. So rather than fairness in the team, you know. So it depends on what they prioritise. That is it, isn't it? But who cares? It's only FP1. I know, but every session's important. Oh, this is interesting as well, isn't it? Is that I think Oscar Piastri has to relinquish his car in FP1 for some rookies. So there'll be some rookie tests in FP1 on Friday. I'm not sure if Max has to give his car up or if he's already done it. I think Max has already done it. So how important will that be for Lando Norris and Max Verstappen getting an extra practice session than Oscar Piastri next week in Abu Dhabi? That could always be influential. So, yeah. But there we go, guys. What a race. I am now going to go have a lovely dinner. I'm on the Missed Apex podcast in a few hours' time, so be sure to tune into that on YouTube or listen via Spotify. But I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who tuned in. As I said, ridiculous viewership today. It goes on. It goes on to Abu Dhabi. Who would have thought it, eh? Who would have thought it? McLaren, this is the biggest fumble, though. Like, they are screwing this up. Lando really should have this wrapped up. The DQ. Max should not even be in this championship right now. That DQ has brought him straight back into it, and now, look, he's just over 10 points, 12 points to be exact, behind Lando into Abu Dhabi. Oscar's 16 points behind. They were the quickest car here this weekend, and they have messed it up. So, anyway, thank you guys as always. What an afternoon it has been. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I will do a video on some faults and processes tomorrow after the Missed Apex podcast. And yeah, we'll, of course, have a preview, an all-important preview for this championship decider, which is going down to the 24th race of the season, the last race, the finale. Brilliant. Couldn't ask for more. Have a lovely rest of your Sunday, guys, and we'll see you then. Bye.